You're listening to the Overcast. Sunshine on a cloudy day. Part of the Oversoul Gaming channel. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Overcast, your joke-making, fun-having pop culture podcast. I am your host, Justin, aka Oversoul.
And I am your co-host, Nick, aka The Gaming Fiend.
And like always, we are bringing you sunshine on a cloudy day. And on this episode, we are joined by not one, not two, but three guests on this episode. First, we have Adam, aka that Cyclops guy.
How's it going?
And we have Michael, aka Brooksy.
Hello.
Who, none other, he catered, those of you who remember Ryan, aka Rayquaza, aka RMK Buried Alive, from some of my Let's Plays and stuff. He catered his wedding to my sister. And it was a glorious feast.
Really was, and a lot of fun.
And we also have, with Michael, we have Daniel, aka, is it the Mystic Nerd you said?
The Nerdy Mystic.
The Nerdy Mystic.
Yep.
I was close.
Great to be here.
Is a little dyslexic there. In this episode, you may be wondering why I have so many special guests. It's because we're going to be discussing the Game Awards. Those of you who've kept up with the show knew that was coming, though. But we're getting all kinds of different perspectives here. We're getting a perspective from someone who also has their own podcast. Adam has a podcast that, well, I'm guessing was formerly called Goes Nowhere Does Nothing, but now it's going through a name change?
Yeah, my co-host, actually, two of my co-hosts had to step down, and I've got a new co-host on there, and we've decided to do a little bit of restructuring, and we are kind of going with a new name. It's a name that fits with a lot of things, but it also goes more with kind of some tech stuff that he's worked with in the past called Garbage In, Garbage Out. And that basically means if you don't do anything with your podcast, or you don't do anything with your tech, you're not going to get anything out. So that's why they call it garbage in, garbage out. You don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out of it. Yeah, and we were called Goes Nowhere Does Nothing, which, if you guys don't know, is actually a Star Trek reference.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually featured on an episode of your show not that long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
and
watched that episode, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were discussing that. So Goes Nowhere Does Nothing was actually a term on Star Trek, but it was for the cast. So, you know, when they were on the main stage there were buttons all over the place, and there were buttons that would function, that would open like the doors and things like that. But there was a lot of buttons there that if you watch closely, you'll see the cast never touches. And that was because those buttons were aesthetic. They were just there for looks, to make the show look nice. And so they would actually label it as don't know with a number, which meant goes nowhere, does nothing, which meant don't touch this button because it won't make anything move.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay.
And the other perspective we're getting, I'm to understand that our other two guests attended the Game Awards in the live audience in the theater.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. We both live in the San Diego area, and I moved to San Diego about 5 years ago. I forget that the Game Awards is held in LA, that we live a couple hours away from LA, and we're lucky enough to be able to get a couple tickets for the event.
That's
That is
awesome.
Awesome. Did you pay for them, or did you come across them some other way?
No, I paid for them. Honestly, really not a bad price for the event that it was. I think, we were in the lodge area. So the venue itself is like 3 tiers. We were in the middle tier area, about halfway through all of the rows that they had. And I think our tickets were about $100 each, which, I mean, for 10th anniversary and getting to see things like 21 Pilots and Snoop Dogg and so many other people that were there, I mean, no complaints. It was such a great time.
That's not a bad price.
No.
That's-
We'll get more into it later, because you were telling me some great stories about like pseudo meeting Hideo Kojima and stuff like that.
I'm still
It's
holding that
awesome.
breath in from the air that I got to share with him.
Right,
That's
and from the
awesome.
air I got to share with them. Yeah, I feel that way. Look, I think you and I might be the only ones here that fully appreciate that man's genius. I don't know, Adam, how you feel about Kojima games, but
I think he's
like,
a genius. I don't play every single one of
okay.
his games, and I wasn't a big fan of Death Stranding, but I do think his
Oh,
games are amazing.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Death Stranding's actually my favorite
what's
game of
funny is
his.
I'm on the inverse side of things where I remember getting a hand-me-down PS1 from my uncle, and the first game I played on it was Metal Gear Solid. And
Hmm.
my incredible, amazing partner back home gifted me for Christmas one year the PS4 Pro Death Stranding exclusive console. Like when I say diehard Kojima fan through and
Mhm.
through, I have never frozen dead still in my tracks because of just seeing someone until I accidentally walked across the day of Kojima.
Mhm.
Death
Yeah.
Stranding may be my favorite, but Metal Gear Solid 3 is peak
Oh,
Kojima.
oh yeah.
For sure. That's probably the best game he's ever made. Objectively.
Really looking forward to that new one he's got coming out, OD, that he's working on for Xbox.
Yes.
Isn't
Yes.
Jordan Peele working with him on that?
Yep.
Yup. Yup.
Oh, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, Kojima said after working on that canceled Silent Hill game that he would never do horror again because he had nightmares working on it. Then he turns around and does Death Stranding, which has horror elements, and works on a game with a horror director after that.
Right.
Well, then
So,
again, Guillermo del Toro said that he would never work in video games again, and then he turned around and got into Death Stranding as well.
exactly. And it's the Del Toro parts that are like the weird, inky monster horror parts of the game, for sure. Kojima is definitely more the walking through the wilderness, bouncing packages while Low Roar plays in the background. Oh my god. I want to play it again just thinking of it.
I
The
can't get
first time
past
you
I
come
can't
up,
past the clunkiness.
you have to upgrade your stuff. You also have to hold the shoulder buttons down when you're going down hills and stuff.
Like
It's
like
Yeah.
when someone tells you like you got to get through the first season before the show gets really good.
Yep.
That's what Death Stranding feels like. It's like you got to get through the first like 15, 20 hours of it before it
No, it's
really
not
picks
that
up.
long. It gets good when you get to the right after you burn that body in the incinerator and get to the first drop off point. That's when
Yeah,
it starts to pick up, in
yeah.
my opinion.
You
I
know,
just need
that's kind of the same way with the show Schitt's Creek, and it was like, oh, you get through the first couple seasons. I was like, why do you have to watch the first few seasons before it gets really good?
Yeah, that's the exact reason I could never get into The Walking Dead. It was just too slow.
Fair enough.
Right.
Um, but yeah. Anyways, all that aside, before we get deep into the Game Awards and all that, folks that know the show know we have our usual life updates, media corner, yada yada.
Yes.
The last episode we recorded was before Thanksgiving. It's been 2 weeks. So for this episode, for our life updates, I'm going to go around the room and ask everyone how their Thanksgiving went. And if there's any other thing big in your life that's happened lately, feel free to throw that in. But I mainly want to know how everyone's Thanksgiving was. We'll start with Adam.
Mine was pretty good. So my Thanksgiving, we actually went to my wife's family in Rock, or actually the Rockton, Illinois. So I wasn't too far away from where you're at, Justin. Um,
Hmm.
yep, and we went and visited them for a couple of nights, and they actually, my mother-in-law set it up where my wife and I got to spend some extra time with our nieces who we don't get to see very often. So she set it up where our nieces stayed the night at her place, and we were staying the night at her place, so we got to see them for about almost like 2 3 days straight. Got to, they're about 3 and 5, so kind of that fun age where, you know, um,
Right.
yeah. So got to do that, and then later on we got to go see my other niece and nephew in the Naperville area, and out there they actually have a house that is decorated with a theme of Taylor Swift. And it's been on the national news, and we decided to go see it before the national news put it back on there. So we got to not have any kind of wait to go see it.
Oh, nice. Okay. I know a lot of people usually have the traditional Thanksgiving dishes. Do you have any unique dishes at yours? Ones that people don't normally think of?
Not ones that people don't normally think of. It's just this year my mother-in-law did the turkey, and she did it more in like a kind of a crock pot kind of style instead of just straight up in the oven like most people do. And then
Okay.
she makes her special mashed potatoes and gravy, I don't know what she does with it, but it is really, really good. Um,
Mhm.
so nothing that's really out of the ordinary, but just always good.
Okay. Uh, anything else?
Um, I mean, for Thanksgiving, no, I mean that was really it because we're from traveling from where we live to where my mother-in-law lives. It's about 7 hours, so the rest of the time was just mostly spent on the road. Um, And then yeah, that was really it for our Thanksgiving. Most of the time was the other time was just spent on the road and then just kind of discussing what we're going to do for Christmas.
Right. Anything else significant happen recently in life though, like in the past couple weeks?
Well, I did have surgery. Ended up having um just a quick outpatient procedure. I was really scared about that. I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook about that. I was actually really scared about that because last
Hmm.
time I went in for a procedure that was quote unquote routine, I ended up flatlining on the table and almost
Oh
didn't make it
Jeez.
out.
no.
So I was a little scared when they're like, "Oh yeah, routine." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what you said last time." You know?
Oh
But
no.
luckily, I was in and out and was able to. Everything was fine. And I know it was a whole different set of circumstances. Last time when I flatlined, it was actually I went in for a catheterization because I was. They told me I was in heart failure, and they wanted to see if there was any kind of blockages or anything. And of course, they didn't know how low my heart rate was at the time, so they gave me a Benadryl to relax. And the Benadryl actually, my heart didn't officially stop, but it was so weak that it wasn't registering on the on those monitors. Like you see on TV where it goes like beep beep beep. It was actually flatlining there, but they could hear my heart through the stethoscope, and they had to hit me with adrenaline to bring me out of it. And it's not as dramatic as you see in the movies. It's they literally just put it in this IV and then had to wait 3 hours for it to bring me out. But I was able to be saved, so just thankfully. And yeah, now this time it was just for a quick little quick procedure, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that won't happen this time." Of course, I'm sitting there freaking out, but luckily
Right.
I've got a wife that was sitting there going like, "You're gonna be fine," you know. Yeah, my that was really the only big significant event. Other than that, just getting ready for the holidays and been working a lot. I have a regular 9:30 to 6 job that I work Monday through Friday, but just been getting ready for the holiday.
Nice.
Damn. Well, I'm glad you're doing good.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't mean to bring
Uh,
everything down like that, but
no, 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 no. It's okay. No, that's no, that's definitely a worthy thing to bring to the table for this part of the show. Yeah, significant. I, I'm not saying that I have any desire to go under surgery, but like I normally don't have anything for my life updates, but work is work, and that's it. So Nick's the one been going all the goddamn adventures lately. He's got tons of life updates. Uh,
Yeah.
But anyways, let's hear from our Californian guests next. The Californians. Remember that song?
should we
Hey.
call them the California raisins? I don't know if I'm the only one old enough to know that.
Oh,
I
I
have to
love.
ask, did you take the 22 to the 405 to get here?
We actually took the 15 to the 405 to the 5. Thank you. Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving. This was the most unusual Thanksgiving I've ever had because I very much grew up in. I'm originally from Texas, despite living in California these days. And my whole life, I've always done waking up really early, watching the Macy's Day Parade, cooking all day, having a full-fledged feast, watching football, watching Christmas movies. I did none of that this. I did none of that this Thanksgiving. Instead, I spent my Thanksgiving at an Airbnb and had Thanksgiving dinner at a Denny's. Not
Oh,
because Yeah, I know. Okay, it sounds sad initially. It's because myself, my wife, and one of our close friends, we went to a rave that was in Long Beach for 2 days on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, my wife and I were talking about it. We're like, do we really want to cook all day just for the leftovers to sit at home that we can't even eat and come back and get like maybe one day worth of leftovers before it's gross? So yeah, it was so Thanksgiving was very, very, very mild, very low key. The rave itself was a lot of fun. It was an event called Apocalypse Festival, and it's pretty much exclusively drum and bass, rhythm, and dubstep. So for me to go and get to see a lot of artists I love, like Excision and Ray Volpe and Keizo and Level Up, Subtronics, all of that stuff. Very unique, unique way to celebrate the holiday season. So that's what I personally did. Daniel, how was your Thanksgiving, man?
My Thanksgiving was pretty good. It was also very chill. I spent it with my kids and my ex-wife. Yeah, we just hung around, played Dead or Alive for most of the day.
I still think it's so weird that you and your 10-year-old kid will sit and play Dead or Alive 5 with every bit of graphics and gravity that it has.
Game's got some gravity to it, let me tell you. So yeah, my Thanksgiving was very chill. We had we got chickens instead of turkey. We did full chickens.
Oh,
Nice.
I know.
And my family's done ham in the past with turkey. It's always really good.
a lot of restaurants like to do themed stuff around the holidays, and the one that I work at was doing deep fried turkey sandwiches throughout all of November.
Oh man, I used to be a bartender at Buca de Beppo like a decade ago, and the nightmares that I would have prior to Thanksgiving, because they would do like a Thanksgiving plate, and you could choose between turkey or ham, and it came with like stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry sauce, like all the normal stuff. When I say like a line around the building from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. nonstop, now hardest of passes. But as far as life events, what do I have there? Oh, actually, I accepted a new offer letter that I officially signed off on yesterday. So I'm proudly I am a staffing executive for a small firm based down in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was an unexpected move, but I can't express how excited I am for the opportunity. The president is someone that I've worked with before. It's someone that had mentored me before in staffing, and it's to go from kind of a more corporate structured, environment to like, hey, you do the job and you do it really well. I just want you to just I don't need all of the politics and everything else. Like, I just want you to come in and just make some calls, make some friends, let's make money, and that's it. So it's a very different environment. It's the first time I've ever worked remotely in my career. So I'm really excited to be home a lot more, to be able to see my wife a lot more, see my dogs a lot more, and that's a major life update for me. What about Daniel? What you got?
I unlocked Darth Revan today in Galaxy of Heroes.
Yes,
Nice.
That was a big moment. You were so excited.
That was the only reason I downloaded that forking game. For real. Yeah, no, well, I got Jedi Revan a while back, and so I do competitive lightsaber dueling, and that's who I model my armor after. So yeah, I'm a bit of a Revan, a Revanchist.
That's right. Yeah. So you're actually like a professional lightsaber duelist, like the way that people would do like sword duels with the rapiers and stuff, right?
Yeah, or like they have SCA and HEMA, so they have like historical sword fighting groups where they fight with like steel long swords or sword and buckler, almost anything you could imagine. That's one of the reasons I like lightsaber combat, is because it's kind of like the mixed martial arts of sword fighting.
Yeah.
It's just a
Well,
stick. It's just a glow stick. So we get everybody from like Filipino martial arts to like European martial arts to kendo, or just people that like Star Wars and wanted to swing their lightsabers around a little better. We get people from everywhere.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
How far does the LARPing go? Like, if you hit someone in the leg, do they have to like tie the leg behind their back and pretend it's been chopped off?
Different organizations have different rule sets. We don't do that in the Saber Legion, which is the group that I fight with most often. I'm a big advocate for crossplay, so like I've been working on learning the French fencing federations.
Fencing, yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
So yeah, but they have like a lightsaber rule set now that they're maybe going to get introduced to the Olympics. So I've been familiarizing myself with their rule set. There's a number of groups out there that kind of do things in different ways. So we don't do our scoring in that way. Our standard division is just point fighting. So it's like every time a hit happens, a hold is called, the judges score a point. And then the fight is resumed. We have another rule set that my good friend Alon Block invented called Unity, and that one's continuous fighting. So it's like a timed round. You don't stop. You just have to disengage after a hit is made. That's the only rule. So if you don't disengage, it just turns into a slugfest, and no judges can figure out who won that one. So you disengage after every hit, but the fight doesn't stop. It's you get out of measure for a bit and then you can go right back at it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been a big martial arts nerd and Star Wars nerd since I was very young. So it's kind of like it's a melding of two of my great passions. Plus I make lightsabers, so I get to play and do my fun crafting.
I've always wanted to get into like the medieval times Renaissance type stuff, but like I'm way too self-conscious to act like that in front of other people, and I know that sounds crazy coming from someone who makes an ass of themselves on YouTube in horror games, but
I mean
it's different when you're talking to a camera. Yeah.
I would encourage you because like I was a Marine once upon a time, and
Okay.
I bought my first lightsaber when I was in School of Infantry. So I was like just out of basic training. I'm at my job school, and I went and bought my first lightsaber. I got the Luke Return of the Jedi hilt, and brought it back to the squad bay, and everybody and their mother talked shit on me. All of them, my peers, the instructors, they were just giving. I mean, it was 2006. It wasn't quite cool to be a nerd yet.
Nope.
And so,
Our generation made it cool to be a nerd,
Hell yeah.
We did.
I feel like director
Elder millennials for the win.
It's all right.
I feel like director Krennic sometimes, where he's like we stand on the grounds of my accomplishments, not yours. But it was funny because they all talk shit until you hand them the lightsaber, and then every single one of them is like, they're 7 again, and that light in their eyes comes back, and it's not just the light from the blade, it's like their face just totally twists and changes. And then I didn't know if I was ever going to get it back. So when I was in Iraq, I carried a lightsaber in the turret with me, kind of like my dedication to be a light everywhere I go. And
I mean, who hasn't
Nice.
grabbed like a tube of wrapping paper and been like 0, 0?
Yup.
Yes.
every single person.
I am your father.
As a kid, I used to pick up the most sword-looking stick I could find and
Yep.
like reenact Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy
Oh.
scenes.
Sticks were my first lightsaber. I used those. I had some PVC sabers that were around. As soon as I was old enough to have access to machetes, though, that was so when I grew up.
Ugh.
So I grew up in the woods. So
Oh, that's awesome.
after I got back from Iraq, I have a point to all this. After
Okay.
I got back from Iraq, I started wearing a lightsaber just on the daily. Like I just wear it wherever I go. And I get there's people that have a problem with it sometimes. Not so much anymore, but it's usually older people that are like, "Why are you carrying that around?" Or like, "What do you need it for?" And I'm like, what does it matter?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Mind
like,
your business, damn.
what does
Yeah.
it matter? You know, more people are excited about it. More people are like, it's weird. It gets me out of like traffic tickets in the past. I don't get them anymore, but when I did, I got into traffic tickets.
Not the fact that you're a veteran.
I'm sorry, but I'm
that
just
you have a lightsaber with you.
Yep. No, the
right.
veterans
I'm just
in
imagining
California-
Jedi
like,
mind tricks.
in
like that's a
California-
completely different way to seduce the officer.
It is.
You want me to show you my lightsaber?
I show them. Sometimes I let them.
You did not see me.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's usually more of a positive thing. People are disarmed by it. You know, people kind of see me as a Jedi whenever I come up. So it's like if I'm helping someone on the side of the road, they're not like, oh, this guy's a serial killer. They're like, no, this guy's cool. He carries a fake weapon with him everywhere he goes. So yeah, it's I mean, dude, don't
have a nerdgasm.
yeah. Don't let your self-consciousness stop you from going for it sometimes, because like you're going to have fun, and you never know whose life you're going to impact and like show them that they have the strength to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also need to live in more forward-thinking, nerd-friendly places like California, because where I'm at is not it for that kind of stuff.
Fair, but also like fuck them, dude. Like I grew up getting like bullied, and like I don't have time for small-minded people. If you want to be small-minded around me, that's fine. You're just gonna think I'm unhinged and weird, and you're still gonna like me, and you're gonna
small towns, small minds.
Yep. I grew up in one of those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all really cool. That is. I started following you on Instagram because I am super interested in this stuff.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Nick.
Yo. So yeah. Thanksgiving. We woke up, watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade like I do every year.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky.
It was live. No. It was live on Peacock, I think.
It was live on Peacock. I was actually really excited that Cynthia Erivo made an appearance.
Is she from Wicked?
Yeah, she is. She
Okay.
plays the role of Elphaba,
That's right. Okay.
the Wicked Witch of the West.
I can never remember her name. I just know Ariana because it's Ariana. Like,
Ariana Grande is Glinda.
Yep.
Or Glinda. The G is silent. Okay. No. Overall, I really enjoyed the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. If I had to pick a favorite float or balloon, I'd have to pick Bluey because, okay, hear me out.
Valid. No,
you have a kid. You have a kid.
I have a kid. But thought it was really cute that they brought that they had little like cars from the show being ridden around by Bluey and Bingo dressed up as the grannies. It was cute.
Okay. Nice.
But we went over to Sarah's mom and dad's house, and we had Thanksgiving dinner. While watching Thanksgiving dinner, we watched that new new at the time new season of Is It Cake, the holiday edition, and it was
hosted by Mikey Day from SNL.
Yes, it was a holiday edition, and it was an all-star season, and there was the winner of season 1 came back, and the winner of season 1 is from right here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think he had a I don't know if it's still open or not, but he had a bakery or a cake shop downtown somewhere.
Did you just have the usual Thanksgiving spread then, food-wise?
Yeah, ham, turkey, deviled eggs, green bean casserole, sweet potatoes,
Pretty
corn.
universal.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes people do unique things, though. We'll get there in a minute, but yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah,
Tell me about that Christmas party you went to.
oh my gosh, dude.
Hmm.
So we on December 1st, Sarah's family had their annual family Christmas party. We had it at like a little um pavilion type thing building down by a little playground not too far from her mom's house. And they had taco chili. Yeah, taco. No, it was they had it was taco soup. Taco
Okay,
soup. They
wait,
had
what?
chili. Yeah, taco soup. Dude, that shit was fucking good.
That
Explain.
sounds amazing.
Dude, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but it was all the flavors in my mouth.
Okay, so it's just a soup that tastes like tacos. Is that
And
Yes.
all of a sudden, this show is on OnlyFans. No, I'm just
Okay, I feel like I have to ask, is it like brothy, or is it like
It's
a
bro-
chunky soup? Are there beefy meat and shit in it?
Yeah, there was meat and
Okay.
stuff in it. It was a broth. It was like it had. I think if I'm correct, I think the broth was beef broth seasoned with taco seasoning.
Okay.
I mean, that's at least what I got out of it.
See if you can't get that recipe.
I will definitely try.
All right.
But there was also some little appetizers, and one of them was something that you're a huge fan of, Justin. The cream cheese, ham, and pickle wrap.
Pickle roll-ups.
Pickle roll-ups, yes.
Yeah. So good.
Yes. Oh, it was tasty.
that sounds.
Did they use
interesting.
did they use dill spears?
I don't know.
It's the only way to do it. Take a dill spear, smother a slice of cold cut ham and cream cheese, put a dill spear in it, wrap it up, stick a toothpick in it, boom, pickle roll up. They used to sell them in stores pre-made at delis. Like when I lived in Oregon, Illinois, they used to have them there all the time. You can't find them
Nice.
anywhere anymore. You got to make your own now.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, no. It was so the Christmas party, they do a white elephant every year. So we
Okay.
did it. We participated in the white elephant. I got so I ended up with a you know how when your feet get really dry and crusty and you have to sand that shit?
Yeah, sorta.
I I I ended up with a foot sander. Not
The
what
question is, do you have a use for a foot sander?
sometimes.
Okay. I mean, if you're at a job where you're on your feet all day, they're gonna get calloused. It's just part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Trust
trust me, I know.
And then there was we opened up like there was actually gifts that were meant for people.
Oh, okay.
I got Sarah's gift to Sarah. It was from Sarah and my daughter Willow. The Google Chromebook that I'll have also sitting here with my notes for later in this episode set up for. But and then I kind of felt bad because I didn't bring anything to give Sarah. I didn't know that we were exchanging gifts until we got to her mom's house. So I
Oh.
had something in my back pocket that I had gotten for her. So I just sent her the screenshot for the tickets to Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince concert coming up
Right.
here at the Civic Center here in Des Moines. Basically, they're gonna play the movie up on the big screen, and they're gonna have a live orchestra. It's really fucking cool, and I'm so glad that I was able to get those tickets for her.
That
But that
sounds cool.
we're going to that on February 15th.
That's how they do Gorillaz concerts.
I really hope that they do that with Wicked when once part 1, part 2 are out. I think that would be really cool.
Nice. Something else really big happened in your life recently, right?
Yes. This is something that I never thought I was ever capable of, but Sarah, being the amazing person she is, pushed me and encouraged the fuck out of me. And I am now proud to say that I hold an Iowa State driver's license.
Nice.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming.
it's been a long time coming. And of course, the first day I'm able to drive on my own, it decides to fucking snow.
Yeah.
But that was it was a true test, and I did pretty good. I slid a couple of times, but I was able to quickly recover from it, and without hitting anybody or anybody or anything.
That's the important part.
Yes. But like I found myself like seriously being like, why the fuck didn't I do this sooner? Because when you're driving on the road by yourself in the car, that's a different kind of peace that I didn't know existed. I love it.
Peace for you, nightmare for some other people. I know some people
Yeah.
who love driving, then I know some people who hate it.
I enjoy
So-
I enjoy driving. I don't mind it. I just don't like driving in cold conditions.
So you're going to be one of those people that's going to enjoy driving down like bypass 20 out here when you're doing like that long stretch between Freeport and Rockford and it's just like windows
Oh,
down in the middle of the
dude,
summer. That's going to be you.
I get that every day when I drive to work because I go from the interstate from Des Moines, and because I work I work at one of the one of the stores out in Altoona, Iowa, which is like a 26-minute drive.
Okay.
So I get a good, I go about what, like 65, maybe 70 on a day where I'm feeling ballsy, but no, it's a nice drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. As for me, my mom and I on Thanksgiving Day, because work was closed, just did a small individual thing. But then the weekend after Thanksgiving, when everyone was free, we went out to Rockford to my brother Dalton's house. Him and his wife Lindsay, and Ryan and Carissa met us there as well.
Nice.
I don't know if you knew this or not, Michael, but Ryan is obsessed with deviled eggs.
I did not, but I just thanks for giving me another reason to love him even more.
So between me and him and my brother, we pretty much devour that. I made like 3 plates worth of deviled eggs, and we just destroyed them. Yeah, and I also brought a green bean casserole and sweet potatoes with the usual. I do the brown sugar and marshmallows on them and do them in the oven type of way. I know some people like to mash them, but what's unique for us though is my mom usually does this, like, you could call it like scalloped corn or corn pudding, but it's made with like condensed milk and stuff like that, so it's got like a gelatiny texture to it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Lindsay does this cheesy potato casserole that's made with like tater tots and and diced potatoes and a whole bunch of like shredded cheese and sour cream, and there's it's like topped with like cornflakes on top,
This is all
and
like
it is
this is
is
all
really good.
this is all like the most Midwestern cuisine I've ever heard in my entire life. And I love
That's kind of where we are.
Casserole
Well,
Kingdom is what it is.
Northern Illinois, yeah. We're also the we have what we call out here the Midwestern goodbye, where the conversation continues for like 15 minutes as you're standing in the doorway trying to leave. Uh, that's that happens a lot. And then we yeah, we ate, we hung out and everything, and then later in the night, Dalton and I played some Mario Party, the new Mario Party game, and would you believe it, Nick? He wasn't over competitive in it.
Really?
Yeah, no, he was actually super chill about it. At one point, he even he stole a star from me with a boot, and then later on, he was like, "You can take that back if you want," because I reached a boot, and he was like, "Yeah, it's only fair that you take it back." I'm like,
This
"Okay,
is the
yeah."
same Dalton that I that I.
Yeah, well, hold on though, because I'm not done yet.
Okay.
There's a catch to the story. So
Oh,
that was
is
all
there?
fine. Yeah, and we played a regular round, then we played a promo round, and that was all cool and fun. But then after that, he was like, "You want to play some Rocket League?" Because he'd been wanting to play that with me for a while, and we did. We played some Rocket League for a bit. Me and him on a team versus some bots. He kept messing with different modifiers, seeing how it'd play. That's when he started getting angry, when the bots were playing well.
There it
That
is.
is the part.
There it
Yeah,
is.
that's when we were losing, he was angry. That was when it became so. Losing in Mario Party against his family was fine. Losing against bots in Rocket League is what set him off. So
Fair enough. Yeah, that sounds like Dalton.
Is this the Dalton that does tattooing?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Awesome.
Yep. You met him and Lindsay at the wedding as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
They were also in the wedding party, both of them.
Inky Lumberjack.
Yep, and Dalton and Ryan have been in several of my Let's Plays on YouTube throughout the years. My ex, when I still lived with her, had a nephew, Deacon, that was in a lot of the videos with us together. In fact, only a couple years ago, even after her and I separated, he did Phasmophobia Let's Play with us, with me and Ryan and our friend
Nice.
Dylan, who you also met at the wedding.
Nice.
Dylan was the one who bought him that guitar. Dylan, aka
yes.
Funky Hurdles.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And our history with him is that he used to make music for video game music videos that I would make on YouTube. He would watch my Let's Plays, make music, and then I would take that music and record the footage of the game and make a music video out of it. We did Soma, Resident Evil 7, Outlast, Kingdom Hearts, and Hellblade. And then Hellblade was our swan song because he's moved on to other things now. But yeah, it used to be a lot more of a group effort, that channel, and now it's kind of more of a solo project as everyone kind of went their separate ways. But so yeah, outside of that though, that Thanksgiving, and then we made plans. We're gonna go out to Ryan and Carissa's place in Wisconsin on Christmas Day.
Nice.
So since they came out this way for Thanksgiving, yeah, and that is more or less pretty much all that has happened with me. It was just Thanksgiving. Nothing else really significant lately. So, all right. Well, with all of those life updates out of the way, Nick, I think it's time that we transition into that there media corner. What do you
Yeah,
say?
let's mosey on over.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Elderly potheads. Why did it have to be elderly potheads?
All right, everybody, here we are at the Media Corner, the part of the show reserved for news, reviews, and recommendations, and sometimes previews. And in this episode, all of us have one item to bring to the table. And throwing a dart at a wall here. You know what, Nick, why don't you go first?
Oh,
in this
thank
section?
you. Yes, I've been dying to talk about Wicked. Dude, so
Okay.
So the one thing that I absolutely love about this is when they were filming this, they didn't use pre-records for the singing. They were not lip syncing. That was their live raw voices.
Okay.
In fact, I have some information pulled up on here on the IMDb page that confirms that. Says the leading duo insisted on singing live during filming, according to director John M. Chu. When we were shooting, those girls were like, fuck the pre-records, we're going live. He was initially skeptical of this since there would be a lot of wind in their air pipes as they performed the more complex sequences, like while maintaining their singing voices. And they simply replied, yeah, that's what we do. But
Yeah.
I
We are professionals.
they're right. Like the fuck? Why wouldn't they?
Right.
So
Side note, by the way, Ariana Grande is the queen at doing impressions of other singers.
she scouted Bowen Yang for this. She called Michael. She called Wow.
Lorne Michaels.
Yeah, she called Lorne Michaels and got Bowen Yang. He got Lorne. She got Lorne Michaels permission to bring Bowen Yang over for the project.
Very nice.
I thought that was pretty. That was something else I saw on IMDb. I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. But the one thing that I know I had mentioned it on the last episode that we did, when Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel are in film, their characters in this were Wizamania superstars, but they were like part of a what's the best way to describe it? A musical within a musical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the two people he's referring to are the Broadway musical stars for this. Yeah.
The Idina Menzel is Elphaba in the Broadway musical, and Kristen Chenoweth is Glinda in the Broadway musical.
So they did cameos in the theatrical movie.
Yes, and I'm so glad. And Kristen Chenoweth gave a massive Glinda vibes. It was fucking hilarious. And I am overly impressed with how well Ariana Grande, she could not have done a better Glinda. She definitely did the role justice. Same with Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba. Phenomenal role. And I want to mention Jeff Goldblum's performance in this was awesome as well.
He's always great.
There's a little twist in it that I didn't because Sarah and I have watched the musical on the musical in all its glory on YouTube, but there's a one part of the musical that I completely drew a blank on.
Oh.
There's in the beginning of there's a song, No One Mourns the Wicked. Glinda is telling the story of how Elphaba came to be. Her father, the mayor of Munchkinland, went off to, I think, the assembly or something. I don't know. But left his wife all on her own and had a visitor come in. And one thing led to another, as it so often does. And next thing you know, we have 9 months later, little baby Elphaba.
Right.
From an affair. And the way that the reason she turned out green is because her mom had a drink of green elixir that night, and that is why Elphaba is green.
Cautionary tale: don't drink while pregnant.
Right. Or drink on a night of conception. That.
Yeah.
But no, it was, dude, it was, oh my God. So, and oh, the, I'd have to say, so my favorite part of the movie has got to be, Dancing Through Life. Jonathan Bailey as Fiero, phenomenal. Um, there was so much happening during this scene, like the library at the school shiz was like a goddamn hamster wheel. Dude, it was so freaking cool. Like, I can't wait to go back and see it again for the sing along. We're gonna go back and we're gonna go back for the sing along. Dude, this was, if I had, I'm gonna give it a rate 10 out of 10 easily. 10 out of 10. I'm gonna take some lyrics out of one of the songs. I don't mean to show a bias, but this movie is fucking phenomenal.
I mean, you hand out 10 out of 10s like Halloween candy, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's nuance, and
Okay,
other times
well,
it's just like, you know what, I love it, so
so
it's fine.
so
It's
I
all
mean,
subjective.
it's
It's all subjective.
it's justified too, because this film has the biggest box office opening weekend for a Broadway musical adaptation.
Yeah.
Like, this movie this movie broke some records.
Yeah. And I've definitely given 10 out of 10s before. They're just much rarer than yours.
Fair. Yeah, true.
I think I gave Astrobot a 10 out of 10, Late Night with the Devil a 10 out of 10. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Such a good movie. Can't
I'm
wait to go
glad you
see it
enjoyed
again.
it. And it's just part one, right? So you still have
Yeah.
a whole nother half coming.
And I have, and that's only 525,600 minutes away.
Nice. Okay.
Provided they don't push it. Hopefully they don't.
I really fucking hope not.
Right. Yeah. And from what I understand, the first part is like a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, and then part 2 is going to run parallel to it.
Yes. So it is the part 1 is it's the untold story of the Witches of Oz before. So there's a 5-year gap between the two.
Okay. I've also heard that even though it's a part 1, it doesn't feel cliffhangery. It feels like a resolved story that can stand alone.
Dude.
Like it wraps up and everything.
Literally before the credits start rolling, it pops up and says "to be continued."
Right, but I mean before that, they feel like it's not. It doesn't leave you like on a big cliffhanger or something where it's like watch the next part to see how this suspenseful thing concludes. It's like, no,
absolutely,
they finished the story.
They finished. Yeah, it's pretty much dude. It was a 2.5-hour movie. It did not feel like
it's
it.
2 acts. It's 2 acts is more appropriate than 2 parts.
It did not feel like it was 2.5 hours. It was song, scene, song, scene, song, scene, like Hazbin Hotel.
Yeah, lots of musicals. Just like Disney movies.
I love.
Okay.
Loved every minute of it.
I'm glad to hear that. Let's hear from Daniel next.
All right. So the piece of media that I brought is Skeleton Crew. It's the newest Star Wars show that's dropped, and I'm really excited about it because it's just fun. I think the people that made this show, they wanted to make a show that they wanted to see. They wanted to make a story in the Star Wars universe that they're excited about, and I feel like almost anytime you have that in any art, whether it be games or movies or TV or whatever, painting, when the artists are excited about the project, it's going to have a lot of love put in it. And I think that just is a great recipe for success. The first 3 episodes are out right now, and so I've been following it. My one complaint is that I wish they just release all the episodes at once because I want to binge. That's been it so far.
I admittedly, as someone who grew up in the 90s watching, serialized shows on TV, I am still a fan of the weekly cliffhanger, or as Snoop Dogg likes to put it, chill to the next episode.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
that. I'm not. I want to binge it. We live in the future.
Yeah.
Future is-
For me, I thrive the anticipation. Like, I like the having something to look forward to of it,
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. Yeah, I don't want to get any spoilers on the show, but it's the characters that they've introduced are entertaining and like fun. Like it's a good hodgepodge of beings that they've stuck together. There's a fair bit of intrigue surrounding kind of like just the events that are going on, what's happening, and I'm excited to see that unfold. I have some theories on it, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes. Also, Jude Law in Star Wars, I feel like I can't complain. Like that's
Yeah, he's great.
awesome. Yeah, he's great. He's great in the show too. It's really funny. The droid that they have in there, his name is SM-33, but let's be honest, it's Smee. It's Smee. Smee's in there. Yep.
That makes sense.
It is. Yep. He's the eternal first mate. So really cool design that they have going on in there. I love the architecture that we're getting to see because we get to see this more suburban, neighborhood in Star Wars, and like it's this whole homage to the Goonies. And I don't know, it's good fun. It's good fun. I didn't know what to expect going into the show, but I'm excited to see where it heads.
And space pirates are not unheard of in the Star Wars universe because they were in the Clone Wars and Book of Boba Fett.
I swear to God, if we don't get to see Hondo Ohnaka at some point in this show, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I mean, they brought Cad Bane into Boba Fett.
They did, and I loved every second of it, especially the part where he got fucking stabbed.
And Ahsoka got her own show.
Yeah, and Ahsoka deserves her own show. I want 27 seasons, Morty. I want 27.
Oh, shit. I love it. I've heard comparisons to Goonies for this show.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
It's very accurate. I would say it's about as accurate as it gets. I could also say, I feel like the reason this comparison hasn't been made is because it's too on the nose. But Treasure Planet.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Okay, you've got me sold. I love Treasure Planet.
Yes. Which, if anything, I cannot believe we haven't gotten a live action of Treasure Planet yet. It is ridiculous.
It needs to be done.
It's like
and Atlantis. I want Atlantis too.
That's fine.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Mhm.
I agree.
Absolutely.
But like Treasure Planet, Black Cauldron, those are some of the ones that's like they were good, but they just had crappy release date, various circumstances.
They're majorly underrated.
Yes.
So, could you give us a spoiler-free synopsis of the plot setup for this? Like, if you had to give an elevator pitch of what the story is, the setup to the narrative.
Yeah. And I feel like that's mostly what we've gotten in the first 3 episodes is just sort of the setup for the narrative. So it's really all we know. But it's basically about this group of kids that kind of sort of become unlikely friends. They find something on their on their home world while they're out stumbling in the woods, and end up it's a starship that's been buried, and they end up blasting off, and now they have no way back home because it's like the ship's autopilot was activated, and then there's this whole thing of like how do they find their way back, and that's the whole setup for the show. The twists and turns that it takes along the way are they're really interesting because it's like, these kids think that they know, what's going on. They think they know what their lives have been, what their homeworld is. But it turns out that a lot of the things that they thought were true are not.
Okay. That's really cool. I haven't started this yet, but it's on my list, and I may be bumping it up the list now. But I actually went back and started rewatching all the Star Wars stuff in chronological order, starting with Acolyte and then going through the movies. I'm in the animated Clone Wars series now, so it might be a minute before I get there. But
Are you watching it in chronological order?
yes.
Yes, it's I just started another run through of a chronological watching of the Clone Wars. My partner Allie hasn't we just did a Star Wars marathon where we watched like the saga, and so she's ready to put on the Clone Wars, and she just started the show like out of the blue to surprise me, and I was like, oh, hold up. Hold on.
You gotta watch season 3, episode 16 first, then season 2, episode 16, then the movie, then we gotta jump back to season 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we got to do a whole bunch
That's
of.
what I liked about Deadpool and Wolverine. They actually said like, oh, just like in Loki, season 1, episode 5. Like
Yep.
they just told you what it was.
That shit was fantastic.
Well, and that's the cool thing is it's like the Clone Wars has that sort of Clone Wars does have that sort of episode formula where each of the episodes or each of the story arcs, because some of them were like 4-episode story arcs, they all wrap up nicely. Like they stand alone. Of course, more is coming, but like really you can watch them out of order. You can watch each episode, and like there's going to be a conclusion to the story that's being told.
Yeah, if you watch the episodes in release order, the story will be out of order, but it'll be the way George Lucas thematically intended you to see it.
Yes. Well, but when you watch it in chronological order, you get a whole different perspective look at the machinations of the Clone Wars and just how far Palpatine went to secure control over the entire galaxy.
I'm in season 4 now, so I'm at the point where the episodes are actually in order for the most part up until a certain point. Like the end of season 3, beginning of season 4 is all like you don't have to jump around there; it's in order.
Yeah, that's true.
I just want to say that this show has shown me that Jar Jar Binks might accidentally be the most powerful character in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, absolutely. He was supposed to be the Sith Lord, but
he just bugs. He does this like Looney Tunes shit where he accidentally eats his way through every situation. He like slips on a banana peel and half the enemy battalion is destroyed. It's insane.
He made it with a queen of an alien planet. Like it's wild.
Yeah. So for Star Wars Skeleton Crew, I know it's a recommend, but if you had to give it a score so far, 3 episodes in, what would you give it out of 10?
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because they won't let me binge watch it. That's about it. I give my full judgment until this story concludes, because like I feel like you have to let the ramp up. Like I couldn't tell you. So far, the episodes that I've seen are 10 out of 10. The world building that they're doing is great. The actors' performances are wonderful. It's pissing off the tightwads that are like, the kid has 2 moms, and I love that. Whatever, sure.
Yeah,
it's a great show, all in all.
Awesome. Okay. Adam, let's hear from you next.
So for mine, it's actually a game that came out earlier this year that I don't think got anywhere near the praise that it should. It was Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden.
I've played this.
Yeah, it's actually done by the same developers who did the original Life is Strange, not the one that's out right now, but the original one, which is Don't Nod. And it's a really great ghost story. It's the story of 2 banishers who are set to banish an evil spirit that's plaguing a town through a horrible event that happens, and I'm not really giving any spoilers here, but one of them dies, and then you kind of have to decide as you see their spirit, and their spirit follows you and guides you, you have to decide kind of at the end of the journey, even though they've helped you, it's very much you're playing as two different characters, but you have to decide: are you going to banish them, like you've been taught to do? Are you going to absolve them and send them kind of to their version of heaven, or are you going to just rip their spirit apart, because spirits are unnatural in this world? And it's a really emotionally charged and very great story. I think the problem was that it launched right up against Helldivers 2, and
Yeah.
Helldivers 2 exploded, and so everybody just kind of slept on this one. But I mean, you're listening to this, don't continue to sleep on this game. Definitely give it a shot. It's not full of blood, guts, violence, and gore like a lot of games, like a lot of those kinds of games are, but it's got a really emotional story that hooks you right in. And seriously, I cannot recommend this game enough. I'm actually gonna start my second playthrough. It's a pretty lengthy single
Ooh.
player campaign. I'm gonna start my second playthrough and hopefully get the evil ending this time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't gotten very far in it, but I like what I've played of it so far. The combat reminds me of modern God of War in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And like the traversal as well, like just the basic walking around the area. But then there's also like this world is more alive because you're talking to NPCs in the villages and stuff.
Mhm.
And there's little side quests. I do like how you have to switch between the living character and the dead character in combat in order to get different attacks in on different enemy types, because like certain enemies, if I remember correctly, are like you can only damage them with spirit damage, so you have to switch it up.
Right.
And that mechanic you were talking about whether to like to save or to banish or absolve or condemn the spirits, each one that you come across, it's sometimes morally ambiguous on whether like I noticed it's not always clear cut, and sure you might want to like play it in a gamey way where you want to get either all absolves so you can get a certain ending or something like that, but I find myself switching back and forth between what I choose to do to who based on the things that they've done.
Right.
There was one guy I ran into that was like, I was like, there's no way I can absolve you. You are a terrible, terrible person. I have to banish you. There's no, like, I can't live with myself if I save your soul because you don't deserve it, quite
Right.
frankly.
It's like this is a fictional character too, and you're feeling this way about like you're a terrible
and
person. It's like
well, that's the don't
Oh.
nod part of it too. They're great story writers, and that's choices are a core element of their games, even when it's an action game, because they also did Vampire, Vampyr, and that game has choices about whether or not you become more vampiric or not, based on like killing civilians and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but also like if you don't become more vampiric, then combat is harder. So it's like you pay a price for being a good guy. It's very unique.
Yeah. The whole
so-
no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Deck 9 does Life is Strange now, but Don't Nod, yeah, they are. I love what they've been doing since they left that. And I couldn't agree more that this game is underrated. It actually made my nominee list for my top 10 contest this year. So alrighty. Any other thoughts on that game?
I mean, really, just don't sleep on this game. Definitely play it. It deserves any and all, accolades that it gets, any and all, praises that it gets. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the most perfect game ever, but honestly, for me, it was a contender for Game of the Year, and I think it was robbed that it didn't even get nominated for hardly any awards.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It also came out in the Dead Zone, and the only reason Helldivers 2 got the recognition it did was because it blew up, but games that come out in January and February are usually like doomed to not even be mentioned later in the year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Or the
What
ones
would
that
you
came
rate
out
it?
and the ones that came out in December don't even, because I mean, you notice that Indiana Jones is like the top game right now and it didn't get any, but I'm like, that's because it came out after the awards had been announced,
Right, there's a cutoff point in November, but that means it's eligible for next year. Just like Asgard's Wrath 2 was nominated for Best VR Game, but it came out last December. But what would you rate Banishers, Adam?
I would give it a solid, probably 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh. Okay.
At least for me.
That's
It's
high praise.
yeah, at least I mean, there's a lot of games that I play that I'm like, okay, this is good. I can see why it's getting the praise that it is, but this is one of them that hooked me right from the beginning. I can't play games all day because I have a regular job, so to speak, that is 9:30 to 6 every day, and then I've got a wife, and everything else. I can't always play games a lot. But this was one that I made time for. I was like, I want to see what's gonna happen here. I want to see, what does even though I'm kind of going for this ending, I want to see if I actually get this ending because I'm changing my mind halfway through here, and I'm changing it halfway through every time I play it. So yeah, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10.
All right, Michael, let's hear from you.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the new poorly marketed movie that is Lord of the Rings: The War of Rohirrim. It's surprising how many people I had mentioned this movie to that were like, I had no earthly idea a new Lord of the Rings movie was coming out. And I was like, yeah. And a lot of the assistants actually came from Peter Jackson on this, which I think is something to point out. But really, the only advertisement I'd actually seen for this movie is anytime I went to go see a movie, both my wife and I are, AMC A-listers that go all the time. And I
Nice.
Yeah, really excited to go and see it. And to kind of preface it, I'm a casual Lord of the Rings fan. I am someone that enjoys the movies. I will usually do a marathon at least once a year of the 3 extended cuts. There may be 1 or 2 naps thrown in the middle of it, but I usually will do that once a year. I've watched the Hobbit movies. I'm definitely a bigger fan of the original animated Hobbit movie than anything else. And I've tried to read the books when I was in middle school, and it was so dry that it turned me away from reading for like a decade. So,
Wow.
all of that being said, I love this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to get to experience other parts of that world, that universe in a different time period. I think the story takes place it's like 200 years before the events that happen in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Right,
And
it's like King Theoden's like great grandfather or
yes,
something.
yes, and it's a lot of the story is around a woman named Hera. Her father is King Helm, and they oversee the area known as Rohan. And the story primarily focuses around Hera and her story, and her really working towards becoming a shield maiden, which is basically like a knight that's in their group, in their clan, in their village. And the kind of the calamity that ensues, the big real, turmoil has to do around the antagonist, which is an individual by the name of Wolf, someone that they were, really wanted to really wanted to marry Hera, and Hera had absolutely no interest in that nonsense, which is what a lot of this kind of came about. I don't want to go into an immense amount of spoilers or anything like that, because there are some really cool surprises. There are ties to the original trilogy. There are there are a couple different cameos in it that I was really surprised to see in it, where I was like, oh, that's honestly really cool to see.
It wasn't in the marketing they did kind of spoil that Eowyn is in
Yes,
it, and
yeah.
I have to wonder how the hell that's possible.
No, that was honestly the only thing I was going to share, just because she is in the trailer, and her character herself is not in the movie. Eowyn is the narrator.
Okay.
Or kind of like how Eowyn in the very beginning of like Fellowship of the Ring and starts kind of setting the tone by just kind of letting you know about how many rings there are and the different, the different groups of elves and humans and dwarves and all of that stuff.
Wait,
There-
that was her narrating the original movies? I always thought that was Galadriel.
Oh, wait, you are right. No, I'm just losing my mind. So essentially, what Galadriel did is what Eowyn did for this movie.
Okay.
So
Okay.
really just being the narrator to set the tone at the beginning, add context in between different scenes. And it was great. As soon as her voice came up, I'm like, wait, I know this person. And
Yeah, same actress.
yeah, and I would say like the story itself was really interesting. The animation was uh, it was 95% excellent. 95% of it like truly excellent. You can see that this is like a true cinema quality, something that really warranted having that big screen appearance. We were lucky enough to see it in IMAX. There's a I guess very fancy and very busy mall not too far away from where we're staying at right now in downtown LA called The Grove. And
Okay.
when you walk in, I mean, it literally looks like late 1800s, early 1900s, like architecture and giant pillars. And I'm like, this is an AMC, right? Like we didn't. This this is way too stunning and gorgeous for this to be a movie theater, let alone one that I pay $25 a month to visit. But it no, I mean the animation for it was absolutely stunning. There were few moments here and there where it had the first like 20 episodes of Dragon Ball Super effect where like just like in the background people didn't have any kind of like details for a face. It was just a circle and you're like, oh, okay, all right.
Anime. It's an anime
It
thing.
is like I anticipate artwork like that to show up in a TV show where they're on a timeline, they're on a budget, and respectively, I believe the studio that did this movie, they're actually about to lose the rights to Lord of the Rings, which I think is probably a big factor. I think what is it, Warner Brothers? I think the contract for Lord of the Rings is about to come up, is what I had read a couple days ago. So in that regard, it kind of makes sense why there were some things that weren't just like fully polished out. But again, it was 5%. It was nothing that deterred me. It was nothing that made me think, oh, this isn't good. This isn't a great quality or anything like that. But just something I would notice periodically in the background. I'm like, okay. It's really my reaction to it. Acting was really good in it. You believed each person was who they were trying to portray. The pacing felt right. There were a couple moments that were a little bit slower, but I mean the movie was 2 hours, which is like less than half of the length of an extended cut of regular Lord of the Rings. So it still felt like accurately paced and still felt like there was something going on.
So like 90 minutes.
It was. The movie was 2 hours long.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a 2 hour long movie. I think it was like 133 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, the acting was great. The visuals were again mostly excellent, but just peppered with a little bit of rushness to it. The story was really great. I guess like the only thing is like, because this is not a story that we all really know, and this is not a story that feels pivotal to everything that happens in Lord of the Rings. It's not like because of this story is what directly led to this. Wasn't a Hobbit experience. I guess is the best way I'm trying to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. More of a supplement for people who want extended lore.
Exactly. So that's like I can only like if you enjoy Lord of the Rings, like someone that's like if it's on, you're gonna watch it. For those that I guess would be like slightly above a casual, like yeah, absolutely watch this. For anyone that's a diehard fan, I personally think they'll probably absolutely love this. I had to actually do some kind of deep diving because I didn't know about the War of Rohirrim until this movie, and I'm like, what book did this come from, or this story? Is this something that was just like pulled out of.
It was probably in the appendices, I'm guessing.
Yes, so it was in the appendices.
Yeah.
There's like, and it's in the first appendices, and it's like literally like 4 pages of the entire thing is about the War of Rohirrim, and that's it. So they had to have taken some liberties with it, but from what I can see from like Reddit threads and everything else, there's stuff very true to the original context that Tolkien had written. So I mean, in that regard, like, yeah, I do recommend it. I think the animation's great. I think it was a fun watch. It didn't feel like it dragged on or anything like that. There are some movies that are 2 hours long that feel 3 hours long, and there are movies that are 2 hours long that felt like an hour. And this one felt more like an hour, hour and a half long. Like I was fully invested the entire time. And I,
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely left that movie theater with the AMC has a popcorn bucket for War of Rohirrim, and it's literally Helm's hammer.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's like a full-fledged hammer, and then the actual like hammer head itself, you just like click one of the sides open, and that's the popcorn container.
That's so cool.
It's so cool.
Nice.
As far as rating it, I would say realistically, I want to say I'd give it a 7.5. And that's not to say that it's bad. Again, I really enjoyed it, but I do feel like this is definitely something that was a little bit more catered to someone who is like a true fan of Lord of the Rings. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be someone that has read the books, several times or even once. You've just seen the movies a handful of times. It's definitely catered specifically to that demographic, not just your casual moviegoer. There's slight things up with the animation, but overall it was really good. So again, 7.5, some people may look at it as not a great score. I think it was really good. I don't want to say it was great, but it was really good.
Yeah, no, having all of that praise for it and then still giving it a 7.5 is exactly the kind of nuance and media literacy I like to hear on this show. This is exactly the kind of stuff I listen to other podcasts for, because I get it. There's like, you're trying to balance your subjective taste over objective quality and find that number in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, it's that's what it is to be nuanced, to see the flaws in the things you like and the positives in the things you don't.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I didn't have a bad moment while I was watching it. Like, literally, I think I made one small face when I saw two people in the background with no actual face details. I was like, eh. I think that's the only time that I was like, about this movie. But for a 2-second blip out of everything, that makes me happy.
Nice. Yeah, I have to see this. I'll probably wait until it hits streaming, but I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna round us out with a quick recommend for. And I know at least two of you will also be able to have input on this. The new Xbox Game Pass hit Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yes.
I haven't played it,
This-
but I want to.
This game has blown me away so far. I went into it with almost ground level low expectations because I just wasn't like... It's not because Bethesda published it or anything. It's just because movie tie-in games are usually shit. And this one, and they didn't market it very well with the original trailers and stuff. The things that they chose to show off in this game are not in the trailers, is not what they should have shown off. It's like when Bloober Team released that first Silent Hill 2 trailer and it was all just janky combat and people were like, oh, I don't know about this. And then the actual game came out and people were like, oh, this is great. It's the same problem. They marketed it bad, but when you actually get to playing it, oh my god, this game is so fun. It's just pure, unadulterated, like, take me back to the early 2000s fun. Because it's a stealth game, it's an action game, it's a puzzle game, it's got a little of everything, but what I love about it is that it takes some of the best elements of games like Dishonored and Skyrim and kind of mixes them together, in a way. It feels fluid to play. There are some parts that are a little janky, so when you're doing combat, the regular fisticuff combat can be a little janky, and maybe it's also just because I kind of suck at it, because you have to parry their attacks when you have a stamina bar, so you can't just keep punching and punching because your stamina will run out and you'll start getting dizzy and blurry vision. So you got to actually like balance blocking and punching. But in this game, you can also get your hands on almost anything that you can pick up in the environment. Frying pan, broomstick, shovel, hammer, all that stuff, and use them as melee weapons or sneak up behind enemies and knock them out in one hit with them. And it is so satisfying to, like, when you come up behind someone with a broomstick or something, sweep their legs out from under them and then smack them across the head with it. Then the stick breaks. You break your weapons in one hit if you use them for stealth knockouts. And if you use them for melee, the bigger, the stronger the weapon, the longer it lasts. It's got, like, the classic Silent Hill thing, or, like, Breath of the Wild, where weapons have stamina and they break eventually.
I lost count of how many glass bottles I have broken over people's heads.
Exactly. And this game has some player agency too, because I've experienced very unique situations. For example, I got caught by a guy while I was trying to be stealthy, so I took the bottle in my hand and I threw it at his head. He actually dodged his head to the left in the bottle, and I took that opportunity to run up on him and sucker punch the shit out of him with a charged punch. And he just stood there in a daze for a second and then kind of plopped forward to the ground like a cartoon character. It was beautiful. And that's
awesome.
Intentional. There are intentional, I thought it was a glitch, but no, there are intentional comedic knockouts in this game where, like, sometimes, like, there's an ability where if you hold the whip button, you can actually grab an enemy with the whip and pull them towards you, and then grab them by the shirt collar and then start punching the fuck out of them with your other hand. And
really,
if you get a good hit in like that, they will actually, like, they'll go cross-eyed and shit and then kind of fall over in a comedic fashion. It's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, I really love that. The story is basically, it takes place between the first and second movies. Well, chronologically, the first and second movies. Chronologically, Temple of Doom comes first, Indiana Jones story-wise, but it was the second movie. And then it's Raiders of the Lost Ark and then The Last Crusade. This game comes between Raiders and Crusade, story-wise. Some big guy played by Tony Todd has broken into Indy's museum, and he, rest in peace, Tony Todd, and he stole the cat mummy artifact, and Indy's trying to get it back, and you go through all kinds of adventures in first person. It switches to third person sometimes when you're, like, climbing and stuff. There are puzzles, but the combat and puzzle difficulty are separate, so you can set them separately. And if you put puzzle difficulty on easy, if you're someone that's not good at them or doesn't like them, if you put it on easy, this game will literally hand you the answers. In the very beginning of the game, it even goes so far as to, you have to put this stick on these buttons on the ground to press the right ones to avoid these arrows being shot out. And it's a scene directly from the first movie, in a dream that he's having. And, that's another thing. The beginning of this game faithfully recreates a scene from the first movie really, really well. But if you're playing on easy, literally the ones you're not supposed to touch will light up yellow when you're looking at them, be completely smooth, and the one you're supposed to touch will have the interact button on it. So it literally tells you what to do. And it's the same later. I just got the camera not too long ago, and I was doing a puzzle in the catacombs under the Vatican, and I got to this point where I had to pull some levers on a picture of Jesus, and I took like 7 pictures of it, and every time I took a picture, it gave me another hint on the answer. It got to the point where I just walked up to an indie who was like, all right, this one's supposed to be 4, this one's supposed to be 3, and I'm like, oh, you're just telling me. Okay, so I imagine it's not like that if you play it on harder, though. I'm playing it on easy, though, because I like to enjoy the story. And the combat as well, because I also, since I'm playing on easy, the stealth mechanics are a little broken, because I can knock an enemy out like 3 feet behind his buddy, and his buddy won't even know if it's a stealth knockout, even though I'm smashing him in the head with a frying pan and making all the noise. But it's probably because I'm playing on easy. If I was playing on harder difficulty, the stealth would be probably less forgiving, I imagine. So, and in some areas, even on easy, the stealth is still a little unforgiving. I've had parts where I've been caught by a guard, in an area I wasn't supposed to be in, and the next thing I know, not only is like 7 guards on my ass, but like 3 random civilians and 2 construction workers as well are chasing me around. I'm like, oh, this is like old Assassin's Creed where sometimes civilians get in on the fight if you piss people off enough. You know, that's insane. Um, so. But I think the stealth is mostly well handled and all that. My only other complaint is I'm playing it on the Series S, and the graphical drops, the sacrifices they had to make to the visuals to get it run on the Series S are a little noticeable. It is really blurry sometimes, but I do like the atmosphere when you're in like temples and catacombs and stuff. When I went into the catacombs under the Vatican, I was walking around with a torch, you know, like looking for collectibles, solving puzzles and stuff. I was like, ooh, this is creepy. It's giving me horror game vibes being down here in the dark. I love it. So, so with those positives and negatives combined, so far, even though I haven't finished it, so far, I would give the game a 9 out of 10. That might change by the end of it, but that's my score so far. Has anybody else who played this want to give any input on it?
I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. So, because I will be completely and totally honest with you, I have a bit of a different sentiment so far from what I've played for Indiana Jones. It hasn't captured my attention, and I haven't personally super loved it so far. I know this is something
That's fair.
and I know this is something that's created by Bethesda, and I am a Bethesda fan. Love the Fallout.
Published by Bethesda, to be clear, it was
Yeah.
developed by Machine Games, which I think is the ones who did Dishonored.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And I will, and candidly, I have not played Dishonored. Have played just about everything from Bethesda. A few things. One, I don't have a problem with first person games, but when it's you're playing somebody that's as iconic of a character as Indiana Jones, I do find it a little weird playing as him in a first person point of view. I would have really loved the opportunity to have a third person, whether it be that more cinematic Last of Us style of gameplay, or even more broad out where it's like more RPG style. It just
Right.
I prefer that visual, and I feel like for what you're doing of a lot of the sneak and the stealth and puzzle and looking around, I feel like it would have worked better for and that's just my own personal opinion on that. But I don't know what it is about it that hasn't like fully had me invested in. The very first mission, which again is that dream sequence of Temple of Doom, was really cool and really exciting. And I was like, okay, this is what the game is going to be like. You know what? I can see this being awesome and totally amazing. As I started playing through, the second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and I think I'm a bit behind where you're at right now, Justin. I just got to the catacombs that are in the Vatican. So far it's felt very slow. I'm playing it on hard difficulty. The stealth itself is honestly sounds pretty much the same as to what you're experiencing. I think the health is a bit higher because I usually have to go through if I bonk someone with a glass bottle, it doesn't knock them out. I actually have to use a secondary thing, so I usually kind of stay away from the bottles outside of it trying to divert someone away.
Yeah, they make good distractions when you throw them.
Yeah, it's a great distraction tool, and I just I think I don't think it's a bad game because visually it's stunning and it runs well. I think it's one of those player preference things where I'm not a big stealth person. Anytime a mission in any game has a stealth opportunity, I know myself and Daniel, we're replaying through Cyberpunk right now. Anytime there's the option to stealth, the answer is no. I'm going in guns a-blazing.
And it might just be all the horror games that I play, or the fact that I grew up on Assassin's Creed, but I've become really good at stealth in games.
And that's funny is I love the Assassin's Creed franchise. I've played just about every single one through its entirety. I think with the exception of like Assassin's Creed China, um,
Hmm.
but I mean, a good portion of like Assassin's Creed missions are not really required to be stealth, and I guess it doesn't really necessarily have to be stealth for Indiana Jones, but it feels
Yeah.
really pushes you towards that. Like
It does.
yeah.
It is a stealth game at its core, and I think that's why it's in first person, if I'm being fair, because
Yeah.
stealth mechanics tend to work better in first person when you're like sneaking up behind people and knocking them out with a shovel. Um, but uh, it is also an action game too, and it's not forced stealth in a lot of areas. You can, at least on easy, fight your way out of most situations if you get caught. It's
Right.
not like an instant fail,
Yeah.
situation.
And that's the thing. I think it's because like and it's like for me personally, again, stealth has never been a big thing for me. But at the same time, I'm also a massive fan of the Metal Gear series, and
Yeah.
I'm also someone that played the ever living crap out of Splinter Cell 1, 2, and 3 on the PS2, PS3. And loved it. But those games, again, they're in third person, so I guess that may be a part of why
Yeah.
I'm struggling enjoying the first person point of view. Um,
And that's also why I compared it to like Dishonored and Skyrim, is because of the first person view and just the way the mechanics are. Like when you have a melee weapon, in order to drop it or put it away, you have to hit the Y or triangle button.
yeah,
You know, that kind of, and it's basically the same controls. And also, like when I was in the Vatican going through the soldiers' tents, they said if you want to steal money, you have to be in stealth mode, otherwise they'll see you
right,
and they'll come after you. I'm like, oh, that's like the guards in Skyrim.
yeah.
You know.
So in this thing, I feel so bad for saying this. I really do. I think a big part of it that also pulls me out, and I feel like I'm a really big or really small minority in this thought, is I am not the biggest fan of Troy Baker playing Indiana Jones, and I don't know what it is
Oh, really?
about his voice. I don't know what it is because it's almost like he sounds so close, but it's like when you hear a song that's just slightly off key. I don't know why why it bugs me so much because again,
Yeah.
I love Troy Baker as an actor. Like the things that he's done in gaming. I mean, looking at even just something like The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part Two, or looking at him in the Batman games. Like I've really enjoyed a lot of the things that he's done, and so when I heard Troy Baker was voicing this, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love that. And then he started talking. I'm like, I don't know why this is just not sinking in my head as well as I want it to, but it's not. And it's frustrating because again, I love the Indiana Jones series. I love Troy Baker. There's a lot of things that I do enjoy, and I am going to stick with it. Maybe I was just having an off night because again, I only played for like a couple 2-3 hours. I have it on Game Pass, so I was like, well, I don't have to spend any more money than I'm already paying for Game Pass. So like, why not play
Fair
it and
enough.
try it out? I do plan on going back to it and trying it out again, probably after I finish Metaphor. Uh, you know, but that's I guess that's my like differing opinion on it. It's like I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying I don't know if it's a game for me, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that does make sense. I'm glad that you brought up Troy Baker's performance though, because I actually have the opposite like experience. I think he nails it. Personally, but you can still tell it's him, obviously. But to me, it's like the when Will Smith played the genie. It's not a bad portrayal. It's just a different portrayal, but still respectful to the original, while also making it his own. And that's how I look at it.
Okay.
It's like, because if Robin Williams was still alive when that movie came out, he would have been proud of Will Smith's genie. I truly think he
Yeah.
would have loved it. And Harrison Ford gave his seal approval to Troy Baker's performance on stage at the Game Awards, and
know.
that's all I need.
I know,
You know.
and that's why it pains me to say it because again, I'm a sucker for any performance by Troy Baker, and it's like that weird thing. It's like if you're listening to somebody play a song and and their guitar is just the slightest bit not tuned, and something about it just feels off.
Right.
That's how it feels as I'm listening to him play Indiana Jones.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Daniel,
You can hear Joel.
Yeah.
You can hear Joel sometimes.
Daniel, I think, wanted to share actually a fun experience that he and I had talking with a couple that we met here at the hotel.
Oh, I wasn't going to talk about that. I was
Oh.
going to say I think that Harrison Ford would agree with that Troy Baker killed it.
Yeah,
he
he
said
did.
that.
He literally did.
He did say if I had known he was so good, I would have just done it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good. I also want to mention the game does kind of have side quests, what you could loosely call side quests. Like in the Vatican, there's this lady that you can give medicine to if you find bottles of medicine laying around and trade them in for upgrades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It has some minor RPG elements. There are secrets you can find, pictures you can take with your camera that give you adventure points that you can use to upgrade stuff to, and bread and fruit give you extra health and stamina and stuff like that. So. It's very there's a lot going on in this game.
Yeah, you know what I honestly think a big reason why I'm not, or I get not a big reason, another factor is listening to people like preview this game and talk about it prior to its official release and everything else. Is I had heard from I think a couple different podcasts and just a few different clips on like TikTok and all of that, people saying this is Xbox's answer to Uncharted. And
it's nothing like Uncharted.
It could not be farther. It could not be farther from Uncharted.
No. Uncharted was Sony's answer to Indiana Jones. That's more accurate.
I fully agree with you on that. So that's. I think that may have also played into a factor of like I'm booting up this game anticipating something like, a Uncharted, even if it's like a first person, version of Uncharted. And it wasn't that, and I'm like, okay, well, I feel like how everyone felt when Suicide Squad first came out, just feeling completely duped.
Yeah, if you want a first-person Uncharted, play a little Xbox 360 game called Deadfall Adventures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it so far.
Yeah. Okay. Nick, you've played some of it. Where do you stand on all that?
Oh, dude, I agree with all of it. I really love the fact. Okay, so there was one complaint I have.
Okay.
Indy's fear of snakes.
Yeah. I haven't ran into any snakes in this game yet.
How far are you?
I'm still in the Vatican. Remember, you leave the museum, you pack your suitcase, you go to the Vatican, you meet Antonio, and I just went through, I got the camera, I took all the pictures, I went under the Vatican, I did the puzzles down there, then the car came crashing through the roof and I had to, climb out, and then, I did all that, and I went back to Antonio and gave him the stuff, and I think I'm like ready to move on to the next story part now.
I'm further than you then, because you legitimately they force you to interact with a snake. It was
spiders too. There's a lot of spiders in this game. I remember one crawling up his arm when you had to put your hand in a hole to turn a lever, and I'm like, I've always hated that in those like National Treasure type things where they stick their hand in that hole and you don't know what's in there. Like I wouldn't do that shit.
No,
Well, that's because the mummy traumatized.
The Mummy, goddamn.
Yeah, the Mummy.
That brings me back. No, I was thankfully able to interact with it without even looking up. So there's that.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, that's one thing I can say I have in common with Indiana Jones. I fucking can't not stand snake. I'm scared shitless.
Yep.
So that part of the game.
Yeah, he wasn't. He's not bothered by. What's that?
So that part of the game makes it a horror game for you.
Yeah, pretty fucking much.
Well, and Ryan, if he ever plays it, he's not gonna like the spiders. He's got a thing for you with
Yeah,
snakes, it's him with spiders.
that's a
So,
fair. Yeah, there's a
and
lot of them in there.
and there's literally like in the dream sequence in the beginning, there's a scene straight from the what the hell's the first movie called again? Not Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a scene straight from it where the guy turns around and he's like covered in spiders all over his back. It's right after they climb through the spider webs in the temple. Yeah, but they do the whole thing where like you run from the boulder at the end and everything too, just like the movie. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone and found the mummy cat statue, and yeah, I moved on to the next part of the game.
Oh, I'm surprised because you don't, stealth doesn't normally appeal to you, but you're flying through
Dude, this game is so fucking good. I'm having a blast.
There's an exception to every rule.
I'm having a blast with it. It's the damn whip.
The whip does add a lot. The whip does add a lot. You can stun enemies. You can pull them in close to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard the reason they did this game in first person was because they thought if they did third person, it would look too much like Uncharted.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, but also I guess I would argue that the first person perspective plays better to Bethesda's game mechanics.
Well, then they wanted you to feel
well.
more like indie instead of watching indie,
Honestly, I can't imagine a Bethesda game in third person, because even if you play Skyrim or Starfield in third person, the controls still play like a first person game.
I'm the monster that plays it in third person. I'm not even gonna lie.
But that's the thing too. Even third-person games now, I still control them like first-person games. I push forward on the stick to move, but I don't move the left stick left or right when I'm trying to turn. I turn the camera to turn while still holding forward on the stick in every game, be it first or third person. I play them, I guess you could say, cinematically.
Yeah, I mean that's how I play them myself, and I do it because I think it looks cooler that way.
Yep. Yeah, cinematic camera pans. Yep. You're great. Okay. All right, well, that was everyone's reviews and recommendations for this Media Corner episode. Now, everybody, we're going to transition into that topic and get all of our unfiltered, unadulterated thoughts out on the Game Awards.
This is where the swearing might happen. Especially if you're friends with Joseph Ferris. This is where the swearing might happen.
Exactly.
Man.
Welcome to the Game Awards, the biggest global celebration of video games out there, and you have joined us on a very special night, our 10th anniversary. Welcome.
When the trailer for the new Naughty Dog game came up, I almost thought it was a grown-up Lev.
Dude, that's what I thought too to begin with. But
I know, and I know because we're gonna get into it in a little bit, but all of these fools online talking about how ugly the protagonist in Intergalactic is, I so wholeheartedly disagree. I'm pretty sure I immediately looked over at Daniel and said audibly, "Smash."
Yeah, the complaints I've seen is like, oh, I'm so tired of girl boss characters with an attitude, and because only males are allowed to be quippy and sarcastic, apparently, And the other problem is, because she's not a walking sex doll, and they want all their female characters to be soft and delicate damsels in distress, or if they are action heroes, they have to be like Ripley or Laura Croft.
Listen, they just came out with a remake for Chainsaw Lollipop. Like, go play that and shut up. Like.
And you know what? I genuinely like that for that game, but I'm not playing it for down bad reasons. No. It's just fun.
I'm not playing a Gooner game, brother. Like that's not me. Like I don't know.
I put it up on Gamers Got a Game. I was like, because apparently a bunch of weak people are frightened by chicks with shaved heads. I was like,
yeah, that's the other thing too. People are spreading misinformation and claiming that the character is non-binary or goes by they, them, and that's never established or confirmed in the trailer one way or the other. They're just making assumptions based on a haircut. And that is so ignorant.
And equally at the same time, even if it was the case, so fucking what? Like, who cares? Like, it's so dumb.
And that's a good segue into the topic. Hello, everybody. We're at the topic of the episode now, and what you just heard, we were talking about the internet's backlash to Naughty Dog's new game that was announced at the Game Awards this past Thursday, Intergalactic, which we think looks good, actually.
Man, I like almost anything that Naughty Dog does, but there was no reason for any backlash on this, really.
I mean, and that's
No.
the thing. I will say, like, for me, watching the trailer, the only thing that like I guess I kind of took a step back on of like, I don't know if I like that a lot was, and it's something that you go through any comment section, you'll see it, is the volume of product placement that was in it. But after sitting with it for a day or two and really like rethinking it, rewatching the trailer a few more times, the vibe and aesthetic that they're going for is that 80s sci-fi look. And the 80s were so prominent for product placement. Like brands is what was in. I mean, that's why they made so much fun of it in movies like Wayne's World, is because it was such a huge pivotal part of culture in the 80s. And so again, I was a little like perturbed about it, like watching it for the first time. I'm like, it seems like a lot. And like Adidas, Porsche, like, I mean, Sony obviously, like, no duh, but like, and like that was my initial like knee jerk of like, oh, that's so much. But after saying like, no, it makes sense though. Like it fully makes sense why it would be here.
I was actually getting more of a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe when they were when they were showing all that,
especially the music.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, the music there. I was like, so it's maybe a mix of Guardians of the Galaxy and like the older like Alien movies. You know, because I was like, okay, we're in space, girl, you know, everything going on like that. I was getting like the 80s horror vibe, but I was like, okay, this is more Guardians of the Galaxy. When I heard that music, when I saw those placements, I was like, this is cheesy, but it's being done on purpose. What are you doing here? And then I saw by the creators of Uncharted and Jack and Dexter, I was like, okay, so we got Naughty Dog behind that. I see what they're going for here.
Yep. Well, and it's not uncommon for them. The Last of Us games have PS3s littered all over the people's apartments.
I mean, play on a PlayStation and Uncharted 4 too.
Yeah, and actually in the very beginning of Uncharted 4, you literally play through a level of Crash Bandicoot on as Nathan Drake, like playing it on his couch at home. Yeah. Very Inception-y. So Nick, you may remember in our pre-Game Awards episode, I predicted that Neil Druckmann's unannounced project would be here at the Game Awards, and it looks like I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I predicted that as one of the announcements. However, here's the funny thing: when they saved it for the very, very end, like one more surprise thing, because Jeff did his like, we got one more thing for you, and then the last thing wasn't that big of a deal, but then he did, they did the Game of the Year, and then I was like, he might have one of those, ooh, we got one more surprise drop for you at the end things, and then he did, and when it came up, I was like, I wonder if this is that Neil Druckmann thing. And then I saw that it was in space. And my immediate thought was, oh, no, this can't be Naughty Dog. Not enough jungle. Well, I ate crow almost immediately.
Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe there's jungles in space.
When she went down to the planet, and pulled out the sword and started fighting that thing, I was like, oh, there's the jungle. Yeah, because like I can't think of a single Naughty Dog game that they've made, Crash Bandicoot, Uncharted, and The Last of Us, where it isn't 70% covered in vegetation.
You've got Jak 2. I think would be the only thing that wasn't like fully jungle.
Oh yeah, Jak and Daxter. Yeah. That's right. But Jak and Daxter is an island. They're on an island.
Yeah, then that's the thing. Like Precursor Legacy, yes. 2 is mostly in city, and then 3 is like a mixture of like city and wasteland. I think that's really is like the only other time I can think of that they like weren't primarily jungle.
So I'm glad that you brought up the product placement too, because I actually have a very interesting theory. So Scott Telford, the head of What Culture, and specifically What Culture Gaming, I've been interacting with them a lot. They read my questions on their podcast a lot. We've had like a pretty interesting parasocial relationship going on. So he posted on Twitter that he has a theory about Intergalactic, and I'd like to read it because I think this is very intriguing. He's one of the most media literate people I've ever listened to talk about video games, so I find his takes on things to be very intriguing, even when I disagree with them. He hated Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. He hated Hellblade 2. I liked both of those, even though I have some caveats. I do have complaints about them, but overall liked them. And I have the same complaints he did. They just didn't bother me as much. So I still think he's one of those people I can disagree with and still highly respect what he's saying, because he's just that good at wording it. His thoughts on Intergalactic are this: you're supposed to be uncomfortable with brands and that forced song moment. The trailer opens on a quote about generations suffering while jumping 1980s culture into a bounty hunter-driven future. It has to be a comment on how never-ending this recycling of past glories in media is. You know, remakes, remasters, reboots, yada yada, and how trapped a lot of us feel experiencing it. After being given the bounty, Jordan looks off to the side, contemplates what she's about to fly into, and then chooses to go back to the cocoon of retro, the music, the chunky analog controls, the lights and sounds. Intergalactic, if I'm right, is specifically about piloting this version of molded youth, or a younger demographic in general, into a future where they're only armed with the tools of the past to deal with whatever lies ahead. It's about how comfortable and yet uncomfortable modern media is, and how only by meaningfully building on what came before, not regurgitating it, is how we find meaning. The planet that they travel to in the trailer resembles a Fibonacci spiral, a literal mathematical model for progress. And I'm pretty sure that the laser sword weapon she uses is inspired by a stereo equalizer too. Jordan is wielding the comforts of music, of retro culture as we know it, as a weapon to survive against an alien belief system. What do you think on that take?
I really agree with that. I mean, I watch what culture all the time, so I know exactly what you're talking about here. But I agree with that.
Did you see they did a top 20 games of the year list recently, and they put Star Wars Outlaws and Veilguard on it, and the comments are so toxic, ignoring everything else on the list but those two. It's ridiculous.
I haven't seen that yet, but I will probably see it, and that does not surprise me.
But you know what's funny? They also put Star Wars Outlaws on their top 10 most disappointing games of the year. So it's a very nuanced take, because they both love and hate it simultaneously for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. My only problem with Star Wars Outlaws was that, you take a blaster and you'd be shooting at the stormtroopers, and it would take like 4 or 5 shots to take them down. But if you walked up to a stormtrooper, you could just knock them out in one hit.
Yeah.
If you sneak up behind them, I was like, okay, but I mean, that's just kind of a pet peeve, and if I had to nitpick at things, but it wasn't game breaking.
Can I jump in on the lore on this?
Yeah. Sure. Stormtroopers have shit armor.
So
yeah.
plastoid armor, right? It's a plastic, but it's a especially formulated plastic in the Star Wars universe that has certain properties. Mostly, it's meant to absorb blaster fire. It is not. It does not shield from concussive force.
Yep.
It'll take the plasma from a blaster a little bit, right? The whole thing with the Empire was they wanted to make something that was mass producible. It's accuracy by volume. Their whole goal is to be able to overwhelm with sheer force.
Yep. The first stormtroopers were former clone troopers.
Yes. And so barring the highly specialized units, it's mostly just this plastoid armor, which is it's just going to take blaster bolts. It's not going to take any concussive force. Same way with our troops, with a flak jacket or the sappy plates that we wear. They'll take a bullet, but if you try to shove a knife through it, you'll stab your buddy. And yeah, that's things that happen.
The Family Guy Star Wars specials, the third one, I think, actually tackled this joke in a joke where they're fighting the Ewoks and the arrows are going right through their armor, and they're like, why do we even wear this? It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So yeah, that is pretty. They are actually patching Star Wars Outlaws to make it easier for all the people that cried about how hard the stealth is. So, and I will admit the game does have some pretty unforgiving stealth, but it's a fucking stealth game. So, that being said, though, it is now going to be more accessible to people who don't like stealth. So I think hopefully more people will get to play it and see how underappreciated it really is. If you enjoyed the original Star Wars trilogy, it definitely harkens back to that in a lot of ways.
I am a big fan of the Star Wars Jedi games.
And it's canonical too. This game takes place between Star Wars 5 and 6, and there's even some canonical carryover in Jabba's palace in regards to that. Which is pretty cool to see. The Jedi games, Fallen Order and Survivor, are also canonical, taking place during the hunting the surviving Jedi era between 3 and 4.
I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, but I heard a rumor that they were considering making a Star Wars Jedi, either a movie or a series for Disney Plus with Cal. The guy that's with Cal
I would love to
Cameron.
see Cal in live action. He was great in Gotham.
He
Yeah,
was
and
great in
kinda funny.
Shameless.
Yeah, Shameless is what I think of for him.
Somebody said that he was kind of doing Mark Hamill's career in reverse because he started as the Joker and then went to Star Wars, but Mark Hamill started as Star Wars and then moved to being the Joker.
Yeah, well, loosely the Joker it's an inspired take for sure, but they never
it's Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome. Before we get any further into this, though, I have an email I want to read from none other than Ryan with his thoughts, both positive and negative, on the overall Game Awards, and then we can just have an open discussion wherever you guys want to talk about it. So Ryan says, "Hello there, everyone. My name is RMK, and this is RMK Buried Alive Gaming." Just kidding. I hope you all are well. This was a pretty awesome event that just happened this week, and I know it's the reason everyone is talking tonight. I played some guitar. Oh, and some games won awards and others got announced, that too. The Game Awards 10th anniversary was a massive event, and while I wasn't lucky enough to attend in person like some of us, cough cough,
Sorry, Ryan, love you.
I did tune in to enjoy it on YouTube, and enjoy it I did. I figured I'd mention some parts that stood out to me. First, I fully support Shadow of the Erdtree being in the running for Game of the Year, and will continue to defend that stance until a category specifically for DLC/expansions gets added. And the amount of content more than justifies the addition. It wasn't just content cut from the base game in order to sell an unfinished product, but easily rivaled the experience of the base game as a whole. That being said, I'm honestly not too surprised it didn't win anything. I think it fairly lost in every category it was in to a game that deserved it more. Metaphor and Astrobot swept the show. So did Balatro.
Yes.
Astrobot winning Game of the Year was a nice surprise, and I love how upset everyone is getting about it online. While I haven't played it yet, every single person I know that did has had nothing but positives to say about it. And I mean that. Literally 0 negative comments about the game from anyone I know that has actually played it. I can't wait to dig in for myself. And Ryan's a big fan of like the 3D Mario platformers on the Switch and stuff, and Astrobot is PlayStation's Mario. He's gonna love it. He said, I'm glad Rebirth got a little attention, but ultimately agree it wouldn't have deserved any of the other awards if it was in the running for. I still haven't beaten it after 80 hours of playing because it becomes such a grind just beating mini-games to unlock more mini-games so that I can progress the story by about an hour for every 8 hours of playtime. where I'm at right now, this is not untrue. I'll still finish, but that game does not respect your time in the slightest, which makes me sad because I feel it's still an incredibly well-done game in spite of all its glaring issues. Yeah, my opinion of Rebirth is that it's a game of high highs and low lows, and because the highs are so high, the lows stand out really bad. He said to not ramble. I think he meant not to ramble forever. Let's switch to announcements. Of course, I got out of my chair and screamed out of excitement when they finally revealed the release date for Silksong. Wait. That's what he said. Well, that's what I would have said if it had shown up. Sad bug noises. However, on a serious note, Dispatch looked way cool, and I'm pretty stoked on that. Kiora, The first Berserker and Den of Wolves all made it onto my wish list. Borderlands 4 looked great. I think I'm going to need to finally play The Witcher 3 because 4 looked awesome. The new Naughty Dog game is intriguing, but I would like to see more of it before making a snap judgment. And Split Fiction seems like an awesome blend of my tastes. He said, I can't stand 21 Pilots, and unfortunately the stream was lagging pretty hard for me during Snoop, so both musical performances were fairly whatever. But the Game of the Year melody was incredible, and Flute Guy stole the show yet again.
He sure
He
did.
steals it every time. You know?
Every fucking time.
He said, I could definitely do without the Muppets in the future. I understand what he was doing with them, but they are forever a low point for me. I know a lot, he said, I know a lot of people can't wait for GTA 6, but I'm glad that it didn't make an appearance. I personally have zero intent to ever buy it after how Rockstar has treated the last few games they put out, dropping all story DLC for GTA 5 in order to push shark cards, letting Red Dead Redemption Online die because they wanted to sell shark cards. The mere existence of shark cards. It's like they only look at their consumer base as a bunch of wallets, especially if the rumors of the $150 price point for the base game for 6 is true. There are much more.
That will not happen.
Yeah, there are much.
I don't think it's going to.
There are much more.
150. That's a hard ask for a base game.
Right. There are much more deserving and much less exploitive companies out there, and my money will go to them. He said, I can't wait for next year's show. P.S. Surprised we didn't get a new remastered Skyrim. There's always next year, I suppose. I love Ryan's little comedic jabs that he threw in there. Yeah. All right, so everyone else's thoughts. First of all, how do we feel about the official Game of the Year winner?
I have not played Astrobot, so I can't really say. But I mean, I'm not surprised that it got it, especially how popular it was.
I haven't finished it yet, but I would say it's well deserved.
Yeah, all I can say is that I love this game so much, and my reaction when it won, because I was really expecting Black Myth Wukong to win, and I knew Astrobot had a chance, but there was a part of me, because I always predict that whatever game sweeps the awards isn't going to win, usually, because I remember when Red Dead Redemption 2 swept the awards, but then God of War took home Game of the Year, and I always expect that to happen. And I thought it was going to be an Astrobot versus Wukong thing. I was not expecting Metaphor to get as many wins as it did, and I was very happy with that. And although Balatro isn't my personal cup of tea, I think the fact that it was made by one guy and could win that many awards is very telling. I'm very happy for that guy, taking home 3 or 4 awards that night. That's got to be really cool, you know?
I hate to be that guy, but do you think if this year there didn't seem to be a whole lot of games that really blew people away? There were some, don't get me wrong, but there weren't a whole lot that blew people away. But do you think if this was like any other year, where there were, like the years where there was God of War versus Red Dead, do you think a game like Balatro would have gotten as much attention?
It still would have won the indie categories, I think. Because it's a roguelike and people love roguelikes. It's basically a roguelike take on Texas Hold'em and poker, from what I understand. And I don't like roguelikes, and I don't like card games. Well, those kind of card games. So it's not my cup of tea, but just, I can see the appeal for people who do... I think it's a game Ryan would like, because he really loves roguelikes like Hades and stuff like that, so... and he really likes, cards. So he plays Magic the Gathering obsessively. So I could see it, because it's not just a card game. It's like a goofy take on it too. There's like a point system, and it's almost like you're doing it's almost like you're doing a Pokemon card battle with regular playing cards and using modifiers and shit, Right. And all that being done by one person is impressive to me.
Oh yeah. I'm not gonna knock that. I mean, one person making a game like that got that much attention and could even stand toe to toe with other games that were gonna win awards, let alone win some itself. I totally respect that. It's just when you've got Game of the Year and one of the Games of the Year nominations is a card game, which again I respect that he did that. But you got another one which is DLC. It's like that almost tells me there weren't enough big games that made a big enough splash.
That is also true. That is also true.
Yeah.
This was a lackluster year. Anyways, we didn't mean to cut you off, Michael. Your thoughts on Game of the Year?
No,
I apologize.
No, don't even worry about it. No, so Astrobot was my personal Game of the Year going into this event, and I was one of those people that was beyond hopeful and optimistic that it would win Game of the Year. Not only win Game of the Year, but also sweep quite a bit as well. I want to say I have about 55, 60 hours played into the game. And the game's not long. I mean, you can really honestly, you could probably complete it in about 15 to 20 hours. I've platinumed this game. This was such a true return to form of my generation's form of gaming, of platformers. Really harking back to a lot of, yes, Nintendo style games, but also PS2, PS3 games as well, getting to play an Ape Escape level when I was like the only person I knew that loved Ape Escape 2 and Ape Escape 3 when I was a kid. Getting to relive, Loco Roco again.
That was really cool.
Was so incredible, and the game was so well made and it was so well polished. I didn't come across a single, like bug or glitch or anything, and it ran so seamlessly. And it was this game like fully re-embedded into me why I love gaming so much.
Yep.
I went from playing, and for those that say that, it's not for real gamers, this, that, and the other, like I'm someone who's platinum Elden Ring. I bought the collector's edition of Shadow of Erdtree because I'm that big of a fan of From Software. I thoroughly loved and enjoyed Black Myth Wukong as well, but it didn't reinvigorate my love for gaming as a whole. I played through Erdtree, and then right after Erdtree was done for me, I immediately hopped into Black Myth Wukong, and I felt very burnt out from games, and I didn't pre-order Astrobot or anything like that. The game got released. It was getting rave reviews. Everyone's talking about just how purely fun it is. And I'm like, I miss games just being fun, just pure fun, pure joy. And
yeah,
just,
that is what Astrobot is.
It really is. So I went over to Target that's right around the corner from my house, picked it up, and I think I dropped 8 hours immediately from when it downloaded. Like I could not put it down.
Yeah.
It was so deserving of Game of the Year. Anyone that has a different opinion hasn't played the game all the way through.
I flew through that game. I have the platinum in it. I got 100% completion every bot. I've also 100% completed all of the speedrun levels they've added and the recent Christmas level that they just dropped Thursday night.
I do need to play that once I get back home.
So I don't want to spoil anything for you, but that Christmas level, there are 5 bots you can find in it, and they are some of the best Christmas gifts I could have got this year, who those bots are. And
I've seen one. I've seen one so far. And I was so upset to see it because it is not just like a favorite like video game character, but just like a very well-known pop culture icon.
Yeah.
Actually I have a tattoo of on my chest in an ice cream form.
And there are, all I will say is, there are 2 bots that are more recent, but there are 3 that are definitely from the PS1 era, from really obscure games that I feel like only I know about,
I'm so excited. So excited.
But they were some of my favorites.
I could talk about Astrobot for days on end. It's the only game that I can think of in recent memory that I'm traditionally someone that if I'm going to pick up a controller, I'm probably going to have that controller in my hand for a minimum of 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
Astrobot's the kind of game where like I just want to do a quick run through of the Grandmaster Challenge, maybe do a couple levels, and I'll turn it off, and I'll do that, and I feel satiated, feel happy, and I don't get that for such a short amount of gameplay from very many, if any, games.
It took me 14 tries to get through the Grandmaster Challenge level the first time.
Man, it was when my wife and I played through that mission together. Neither of us were sober, and it took us like It took us like an hour and a half to beat it, and we were both like just screaming at each other and how excited we were to finally get through it.
Also, like, I literally have almost nothing bad to say about this game, but the speedrun levels they added, the monkey one in particular, can suck a dick. And so,
yeah, no, absolutely.
that does not translate well to the speedrun at all.
Yeah. But again, to kind of show like the gravity of how good this game is, I'm normally someone that doesn't really pay attention to like small little DLC upgrades. I won't go back to a game when I've completed it. Like, you know, like when Pokemon will come out with like special events and all that, I never was one to go back to them to get like the shiny or the new Pokemon or whatever it is. It's just not my normal style. But for this, every single Thursday, you bet your ass I turned on my PlayStation and immediately went to go check out the new speedrun level. And when my wife got home from work that day, and I am screaming at that TV about that fucking monkey level, oh God, I beat both bots, and I refuse to accept failure. But
it's
the only thing I didn't like.
It's the absolute necessity that this game, I don't know what it is, and I've never felt this I haven't felt this since the original Spyro games. That need to collect everything that like you know, and it you know, some games have pushed me to do that for trophies, but it has always felt like a chore or grindy. But in this game, it feels rewarding and fun. Every time you find one of those bots that are dressed like a little PlayStation character and you save them and unlock them, I've worded it this way before. It does this thing where it triggers that little wind-up monkey in your brain that likes it when numbers go up. You know, it's something very primal and satisfying about it. The way that it plays, it's a very reward-based gameplay system.
It absolutely did. And I am not a trophy hunter by any means whatsoever. I think I have a grand total of 3 platinums, one being Elden Ring, one being South Park. Yeah, I know.
No, listen, those are impressive. Those are impressive. I have like 170 odd some platinums, but a lot of them are from like easy games.
Yeah. Yeah, the three I have is Elden Ring, because I love that game that much. South Park: The Stick of Truth, because it was that easy to get the platinum for it.
I have that one and Fractured Butthole.
Yeah, and then lastly is Astrobot. It's because I could not put that game down.
Yep. So I also got the platinum in the original in Astro's Playroom on the PS5 when the game that was pre-installed on the system when you get it.
Yeah.
I will have to say, Sarah made a really good point. This game was a console exclusive in the Game of the Year category, and their PlayStation fans came in masses out of the woodworks to make this Game of the Year.
And well, it's not the first console exclusive to win Game of the Year either. Previous Game of the Year winners that are console exclusive have included The Last of Us Part 2, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and God of War.
But I would say the fact that a lot of the other games on the Game of the Year category are on multiple platforms, that just speaks volumes as to how powerful, when a group comes together, can make shit happen.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even in the acceptance speech, he said that this game wouldn't have been possible without all of these developers coming together from other different franchises that you see. Things like Jak and Daxter, or Sly Cooper, or Ratchet and Clank, or
so cool,
or whatever it may have been. And he even said, he was like, a lot of them didn't even ask me for anything. They were just like, yeah, dude, here. And I'm like, that's to see the PlayStation community, not just on the player base, but on the developer base, be united as one for a concept like this was just so exciting and so cool to see.
Yeah, and it really is a interactive PlayStation museum / graveyard when you you know, and it's so cool to see well-known franchises, obviously, like Crash, Spyro, Resident Evil, and all that represented, but also obscure stuff like Tokyo Jungle from the PS3, and and Vib Ribbon from the PS1 and stuff a lot of people have never heard of. There are
Even just the original PlayStation icon,
Yep.
like the mascot, like the purple face. I remember
Polygon Man, who was also the final boss in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah, and like I remember having a gaming magazine that had him as a cover as the announcement of the PlayStation when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And to like have that random obscure memory of having my very first video game magazine in my hand and reading through it as a little kid, you get to relive that moment just for a second. From like
that was Game Informer, was it?
What's that?
Wasn't Game Informer, was it?
It may have been
It
Game
was for
Informer.
me.
I think it may have been Game Informer. I forget how long Game Informer lasted. Rest in peace this year. But
Right.
I remember very vividly it being on the cover. It was a black cover with that face on the front of it, and to get to like remember being a little kid and having that in my hand, and when I started first playing games, because my first console ever was fucking Sega Genesis. It was just there were just so many personal moments playing through and opening up a new character of a game that I've played, and again, much like those obscure things as well. It just there are very few games I think of that are genuinely perfect, that are very deserving of a 10 out of 10 score or game of the year or anything like that. I mean, this hands down, there's no question Astrobot deserved this.
Right, yeah. I strongly agree. It's who I voted for in the Game of the Year on their website. It's who I voted for.
Yeah.
And yeah, Astrobot is a PS1 game on the PS5 is the best way to put it. It is a 90s mascot collectathrough platformer revived for today. And it is nostalgic as hell. It takes you back through all the, not only with all the different franchises and stuff, but it has a lot in common with Mario, but there is Crash Bandicoot DNA in there too, especially the like dying in one hit and having to like memorize like patterns and stuff when you're trying to like get across like moving platforms and smashing walls and shit like that, so it's more, I would argue, more challenging than most of your typical 3D Marios, which give you a health bar. You still get a health bar in boss battles, but it's like, but that's also why I like it, because especially like in those speedrun and challenge levels, when you finally get the pattern memorized, when you finally figure out what to do, it got to the point in those challenge levels where I kept dying at the same spot. I would get a little further each time. I was like, you don't win, you just do a little better each time. And then it would get to the point where the parts I've already been through multiple times, I was just flying through them like a master, and then getting caught up in the part where I kept, failing until I got past that. And when you finally do just speed through the whole thing in one go, it makes you feel so accomplished. Since Nick was unable to stay with us for the remainder of the show, he has sent in a separate voice message with his thoughts on the announcements from the Game Awards in particular, and we're going to go ahead and play that now.
So my thoughts on the Game Awards, I did not see them doing a new Pac-Man-like game in a different game style in the form of Shadow Labyrinth. I'm intrigued and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. It looks interesting. Steel Paws is something I am probably going to give a shot. I know it's a Netflix game, but hey, it has cats in it, so there's that. Tales of the Shire. I am so glad that we got more actual gameplay footage and a release date on top of it. So that's definitely one that I will be buying for Sarah. Midnight Murder Club. I don't remember much of this one, but I do know that it grabbed my attention enough to put in my list of notable announcements. I thought it was really fucking cool that Harrison Ford came out to the Indiana Jones theme music to present the award for best performance. Catley, I don't need to know. There's not really much I know about it. They really didn't give much information on it, but it has cats and it's available on the Switch when it comes out. So that'll be one I will be buying as well. Split Fiction has got to be one of my mostments. I really like the unique gameplay in this. The fact that you can jump between sci-fi and fantasy worlds is fucking awesome. Steel Hunters, it looked a lot like a Transformers game. And before they even like, there's a lot going on with that game. So I mean, it looked cool, but I probably won't play it. Turok Origins. I never got the chance to play the OG Turok games, but I do know that the last one was on the Nintendo 64. So I am really looking forward to playing this. It looks so fucking cool. The first Berserker Kazan, if I'm saying that correct, that grabbed my attention. It looks like a kind of looks like a Final Fantasy game, if I remember correctly. It grabbed my attention enough to put it on my list of notable announcements. Stage Fright looked really fun. And I can't wait to play that. Game of Thrones King's Road. When I heard the Game of Thrones theme music, my exact words were, shut the fuck up and take my goddamn money. I am so glad that Game of Thrones is getting a narrative-based game. I'm really excited to play this. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And that's it for my thoughts on the Game Awards. And you can find me on TikTok at the Gaming Fiend 1, on Twitter at the Gaming Fiend 1, and also over on Blue Sky at the Gaming Fiend 1. Bye.
So my co-host just had a hard out, but the guests are still with me. We're gonna finish this conversation real quick. But yeah, my only other thing to say about Astrobot is that I think the soundtrack is fantastic too. Final Fantasy definitely deserves its soundtrack win because their soundtracks are always objectively good. But this game, I've been listening to the soundtrack on Spotify. I love how the PlayStation levels, which are faithful mini recreations of the games they're based on, even mechanically, the music in them are also remixes, like Astrobot remixes of music from the games. I especially love how the God of War level uses Kratos saying "boy" as the beat drop in the music. It's so well done.
Boy.
Yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit. So, what was your favorite announcement?
Oh,
Man.
God, there were so many good ones.
It's a toss-up for me. And what's funny is they were back-to-back and they were right at the very beginning. And I know this is for a lot of people as well. It's a toss-up between The Witcher 4 and Elden Ring Night Rain. I know I talked just a moment ago about how big of a fan of From Software I am, how much of a huge fan I am of Elden Ring alone. I think I've put in like 400 hours or something like that into it. The idea of a kind of a new concept of it being a multiplayer co-op, 3 people, it's 30-ish minutes, 3 nights. The arena keeps getting smaller and smaller until you get to the final boss. Like, to me, I a lot of people have been kind of weary about it. It's so different from the normal formula that From Software does. For me, though, it's not every day that I have where I can just sit and grind out for several hours on end, but to be able to have kind of like a nice, quick, I can get, 1 run through or 2 runs through, either with a couple randos by myself, or if, the stars align and, me and 2 of my friends are actually off all at the same time together. It's so awesome. I'm curious to see what the 8 different pre-builds are. I'm traditionally very much a Dex player, and I don't care how much hate I would get. I still play with Rivers of Blood. I'm sorry, I don't care. I'm very excited about that. But The Witcher 4, I have always said that The Witcher 3 is my favorite RPG of all time. Without question, without fail. The story of Geralt and Ciri is so incredible. The dialogue, the gameplay, the world building, everything about it was so incredible. And I love Ciri as a character. I know there are a lot of people that are really upset about it being a female protagonist. And again, my one statement I'll always use is, "What's it to you?" But also, it just canonically, it makes the most sense. Like, if you played the story, depending on the ending that you got, which the ending I got is full-fledged retirement Geralt, it makes the most sense. It looks absolutely stunning. I know CD Projekt Red's been really busy between either, working on this as well as working on Cyberpunk. They just came out with the 2.2 patch update, which is why we're replaying through it right now. And I know there's some worry about CD Projekt Red because of how the launch went for Cyberpunk. As we all have come to find out, a lot of that had to be with shareholder issues and trying to push the game out much sooner than the devs actually wanted the game to come out at. And I do not think that CD Projekt Red is going to make that same mistake twice. I can't express how excited I was, not expecting to see Witcher 4, but to actually see it happen in real time, I literally had chills in the crowd. I couldn't believe I was there to get to see that happen. Those are my 2. Leaning more towards The Witcher 4.
So since we're playing as Ciri in this one, do you think if they're following the lore of the books, that means she went through the Trial of Grasses?
Yeah, I do think that she'll have gone through the Trial of Grass. I'm curious to see how the game will start out, because it's clearly after The Witcher 3, right? Like, you can see Ciri, she looks a little bit older than what she looked like in The Witcher 3. It looks like it was probably, I want to say probably like 10 years after whatever happened in The Witcher 3. I'm curious to see how you'll start out, because when you get to the point in The Witcher 3 where you get to play as Ciri, she's the most OP character possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 10 years prior to starting on The Witcher 4. So I'm curious how they're gonna blend her mechanics and everything else. I'm also curious to see how they'll incorporate the trials as well. Because she doesn't have, in the trailer at least, she doesn't have Witcher eyes. She does drink a potion that alters it, but she, in herself and in the lore of everything, she is already one of the most powerful people with magic. And I'm curious to see where it'll go from here.
Your thoughts, Adam?
Well, I mean, haven't played a whole lot of the Witcher games. I did play the last one, and just to be honest, I had trouble getting into it, and that's just my own thing. I think
Yeah.
I was not in a good mental space, and I think I told you about this. I wasn't in a good mental space when I started playing it, and that's a game that takes attention. So,
It's an
I will be
investment.
giving it another shot. Oh yeah, definitely. For the ones that I was really looking forward to, I saw the trailer for the first Berserker Kazan. That one I thought looked really good. And then when I was doing my show earlier, I know you came on there. We both talked about Dispatch.
Yep.
That looks funny. I mean,
I'm
you got
all
Laura
in on
Bailey.
Dispatch.
Yeah, you got Laura Bailey, you got Aaron Paul and Jeffrey Wright in there, but especially with Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey, the way that they were just totally joking with each other on stage. But then to look at this game, I was like, "What is this? It's like an Office Space game. Okay, it's a superhero game, but it's almost being run like an office." And then I find out it's a comedy about how being a superhero is a job.
Well, and,
and
it's being made by some of Telltale's leftovers, people who worked on The Wolf Among Us as well.
Yeah.
Which definitely shows, it definitely feels like a Telltale game in the trailer.
Yeah, it really did. And kind of a little side note on there, I was a little disappointed we didn't get any more information on The Wolf Among Us 2, other than
that's vaporware right now.
They said it. Well, other than earlier in the year, they said it hasn't been canceled. But I'm like, okay, what's happening with it? Silence.
Yeah, it took us like
13
years to get The Last Guardian, so like.
Yeah. Stage Fright I thought looked funny, but that wasn't one that really got me. I would say other ones were.
I just wanted to say real quick, the other thing about Dispatch is it's giving me Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law vibes.
Yeah.
Or like She-Hulk a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it. I was really kind of surprised to see that they were getting a Pac-Man reboot, like a dark and gritty Pac-Man reboot.
It's a Pac-Man Metroidvania.
Yeah. I kind of freaked out a little bit during the Turok Origins trailer, just because I was so surprised to see that they were bringing Turok back. When that trailer first started, I could have sworn it was Dino Crisis.
Yep. Oh, and people have been wanting a Dino Crisis remake.
I literally, we were in the crowd, like, I want to say like 10 seconds in. As soon as you see the first dinosaur, I look over at Daniel and I'm like, is this a fucking Turok game?
Uh-huh.
Like, I haven't played Turok since Nintendo 64. Is this a Turok game? Like,
the last game was N64.
Yeah, like I just like, and I don't know, there were so many surprises because I'm somebody who did play through all of the Onimusha games. To see Onimusha coming back was such a huge thing, and equally like to see after 20 years to see Okami having a sequel was that. I think that was the moment that I think that's what made my jaw drop the hardest out of everything, because there's always the hope of something like The Witcher. There's always hope of something from Software. I didn't expect Okami 2 to be announced.
Nobody expected that. Was one that almost is like in the same realm of, like, remember when they initially announced Alan Wake 2 and nobody saw that coming?
No.
Yeah,
like,
that's yeah, nobody saw that coming. Huh?
I wholeheartedly would have expected hearing Half-Life 3 before I heard Okami 2.
Yes, oh my god. Okami, I'm so excited for that to come back. The original game, underrated PS2 gem.
Oh good. It's just
I'd like to see them maybe do a remaster of the original one to help people get back into it, but I don't know if they'll do that, but that's kind of what I'd like to see.
I've noticed a trend, actually, speaking of Astrobot, and this might sound a little conspiratorial, but Okami is another game that's represented in Astrobot. And they really dig deep for the representation in that game, and there are a lot of characters that people are like, where's such and such, and then they end up patching them in later. They've patched in characters from like Rise of the Ronin and stuff like that, later on. And and like I said, some PS1 classics in the Christmas level, and I noticed that a lot of the games, the obscure dead franchises that have been represented in Astrobot, like like Ninja Gaiden, Omninasha, Okami, stuff like that. They are all coming back. And I almost wonder if that's intentional, almost as if that game was meant to advertise the revival of these series. Or to garner new interest for it so that they could put these new games out and people would actually care about them.
Well, damn it, where's my Jack 4 then?
Exactly. Well, that means
I'd
it
like
could
to
be
see other
coming,
games come back.
True,
Yeah.
true. Well, I mean, Naughty Dog is clearly working on something really amazing. Or I am cautiously optimistic that it's going to be amazing. But man, if I was to be asked, like, of all franchises, which one would you want to see return? It is 1,000%. It would be Jak and Daxter.
Scott from What Culture too, he had tweeted before the Game Awards because there was rumors going around about Animusha or whatever. He said if there's a new one of these games, I will burst. And then right after it was announced, because he's in the UK, so he was asleep when the show aired because it was like 2 a.m. over there. He tweeted, "Holy shit!" like first thing in the morning the next day, and then later on he tweeted, he's like, "This means all the originals are coming to the PS Classics lineup on PS Plus Premium, right?" And with the meme of Padme from Star Wars 2 on it.
Right.
Yeah, you could only hope. That's the other thing, too. It's not just series revivals. The other thing I noticed is that a lot of those games represented in Astrobot are making their way to the PS Plus premium catalog for their classic games, their version of Nintendo's Virtual Console.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too. It's kind of... So, like, I do feel like the timing is kind of intentional. You know, it can't just be mere coincidence at this point.
Yeah, I was personally really excited to see a new Mafia: The Old Country that got that new narrative trailer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually talking to Koimiya about it, my co-host, and I was saying, it's kind of odd that they have a Mafia game and a Grand Theft Auto game coming out in the same year. But then him and I were kind of talking, and it was like, okay, if they release them in 2 different quarters, then they can both stand on their own. And obviously, Grand Theft Auto will be the one to take it, but Mafia will at least have a chance if it doesn't launch right next to it. And at the same time, we were just like, I think they're different enough. They call for 2 different audiences. Yeah, they both go for the open world, but I think they call 2 different audiences. I think it should be fine. But that one really, really got to me too. Yeah, and in Inimuasha, or however you say that. There was actually
Onimusha. There it is.
So I was actually talking when I was streaming this, and I was like, have you noticed, you saw how bloody that trailer was, right? And how violent and everything. And I was like, okay, so if they were to do this on the Oscars and try to show a movie that had this level of violence in the trailer, everyone would freak out. But because it's on the internet, that makes it okay. But even though it's on the internet, because it has to be American censorship, if they show a woman who is in a battle and like her top armor comes off and you see her breast, all of a sudden the world's gonna end. how does this make sense in American censorship that we can show all this brutal violence, but a woman shows a boob and suddenly the world ends,
And remember, kids, TV violence is fine as long as you don't show a nipple.
Yep, and I was kind of interested in that Split Fiction, that guy from It Takes Two.
Oh my god, yeah. Every game that Hazelight has put out so far has been an absolute banger. Brothers, A Way Out, and It Takes Two. I love all 3 of them.
Yeah, this
Fiction. So,
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I gotta ask you, how did the audience react with him up there swearing like a sailor again, like he always does?
So I honestly, I want to say 10, 15 minutes before that, Danny was like, you know what this event needs? I'm like, what's that? And he goes, I need people to start talking more like millennials. I need somebody to say motherfucker or something on stage. And 10 minutes later, he comes out and starts dropping F-bombs left and right. Everyone in the crowd where we were at, we were all honestly just laughing. We were all just like, okay, we got a real homie up here now. This is great.
Well, I mean, Jeff did say they let him up there against their better judgment,
Yeah.
It's like, if you watch the Honest trailer that Screen Junkies put out for the Game Awards before like a few days ago.
Yeah.
One of the things they said was like it's always fun to sit there and watch Jeff kind of sweat when things start to go off the rails.
Yeah.
You know what's
Well,
funny? I was gonna say, you know what was honestly weirdly enough, and I was a part of it, the loudest crowd cheer I personally heard throughout that entire event. It was during the Elden Ring Night Rain when he starts running up the wall. Everyone started losing their mind. They're like, they're giving us too much power in these games.
I'm not a big fan of Souls likes, but I thought it was really cool how that Cerberus split into 3 different dogs. And
Yeah.
from what I understand, this is a standalone game, and it's more of a it's an actual co-op game, like more team based or something. Apparently it also has like the shrinking map thing, like Fortnite going on.
Yeah,
I've heard.
So it has shrinking map. It's like a
roguelike.
It's like a roguelike co-op battle royale, which is like the weirdest combination to try to like explain. But yeah, it's basically as each day passes, the map is supposed to get smaller and smaller, and by the final day is when you fight the final boss, and you have a fairly small arena. Which the small arena is essentially just like a normal arena. You just don't have like a large map to kind of run around on.
Okay.
And it's cool because it's a lot of mixtures of different. It's like a From Software universe game because I mean you can even see in the trailer you see the Nameless King as one of the opponents that you'll fight, and the Nameless King is from Dark Souls 3. Like had nothing to do with Elden Ring itself. So I'm really curious as these coming months come out if they're trying to create like a multiverse, fighting game essentially, but within the Elden Ring scope of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that from where you guys are sitting, from where I was sitting here. It sounded like the largest reaction the crowd had was from Harrison Ford walking out.
Yeah, that's what I saw on stream too.
I was thinking for trailers, but yes, I mean, it was, and what's funny because what is it? I forget what podcast I was listening to, but somebody had like said it would be really funny if Harrison Ford came out because that man only cares about money and it's probably in his contract. And so me going in, I'm like, I wonder if he is actually going to show up. And I saw they had the 2 dual screen at the beginning, and they closed it for Indiana Jones. And I'm like, no way, they're actually going to bring this guy out here. And yeah, it was a thunderous applause. Like it was so cool to be in the same room as Harrison Ford. That is not anything I ever thought to experience in my life.
So on the note of those screens,
he said, I wonder what.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say when he said, I wonder what he thinks. I honestly thought they were going to bring out George Lucas because George Lucas has more to do with video games than Harrison Ford. And then it was like once you saw the silhouette, I was like, "Holy shit, it's Harrison Ford!" It's like, and I was shouting. You actually see in the clip that I have, my wife comes in. And I was like, because of the Indiana Jones game, Harrison Ford is there.
Yeah. It was so cool, and I mean it being in that crowd. Like, when I say like biggest cheer, I was thinking more on like the scope of like new announcements of trailers and things like that.
Yeah.
But in general. No, it was absolutely Harrison Ford. Like, I mean, it was the only time you could feel the venue itself like shaking a little bit from how excited everybody was to see him come out on stage. It was, I mean, it's a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget.
I thought the best part on there was the Statler and Wardolph.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, speaking of which. So you know how he was from y'all's point of view, from watching at home and everything else, that it looked like he was looking up at those two and having a full-fledged conversation.
Yeah,
I don't know where those 2 fucking puppets actually were. I could not see them anywhere.
I could see a little bit of where they were.
Could you? I couldn't see a little bit. It just looked like he was talking to the air.
The like pre-show trailers and everything.
Yeah,
they were near that. They were like.
I like my idea better of him just talking to thin air.
Like Clint Eastwood with the chair.
I literally like now, granted, like I am as blind as it can get, but I literally like I'm over here. Where the fuck are these puppets? Like it looks like he's talking to nothing. I'm like, is it a mirage? Like, am I losing my mind right
but you could hear them.
But
It's like-
it's just, I know Ryan said that the Muppets were kind of played out for him, but I was like, I think this was the best year for them. I mean, last year they had Gonzo and the Chicken, which was like, okay, that's funny, but come on.
Yeah.
And they had Bunsen and Beaker like a year or so before that, and it was like, yeah, who hasn't seen the slapstick where one of them gets caught on fire and runs out, and it was like, okay, we get it, but this was actually like, wow, I'm actually glad they were there because they just ripped Jeff up one side.
No, to me, it felt like a Comedy Central roast, and it was really well done. I got like an audible, like, oh, when they said, oh, the theater's not full. I heard he always sells out, It was like...
So did I. I was like, oh,
right.
That's a burn.
Yeah, I was like, damn, they went hard on him,
So it's funny.
It started getting
actually
a little mean-spirited in the third round,
Yeah. I will say I actually don't think it 100% sold out. Like I looked at the website for tickets like a week prior, and it looked like there were still like 30, 40 seats still available. I'm not sure if they did fill them out, but there were two different lines whenever you were getting near the venue. One which was like your normal entry for those that were ticket holders. So they actually have a separate line there that was for standbys for it, like somebody that didn't show up by a certain time. Their ticket would be considered no longer valid, and I think it was like 15 minutes into the actual show that they would let people go in. So that way, it was every seat was fully filled out. Because like where we were sitting, right in front of us, there was like 4 seats that were completely empty until like 30 minutes into the actual not the opening ceremony, but the actual show itself. Nobody was sitting there, and then like 4 people that I swear I saw on that line came and sat in. So that's how they kind of like filled it out from my perspective.
So I have to ask, from the perspective of being there in the audience, because on stream it looked really cool when they did those tricks with the screen, like when they announced stage fright, for example. And when you're watching it on the stream from home, the way that they do it, it looked like those characters were actually up on the stage in person.
Yes. So, and then that stage fright, that was the only one that it looked like that. And I will say that had the coolest announcement as far as like a visual representation. Because it literally, the way that it had worked, the way they had formatted it literally looked like they were 3D and that they were standing on stage. And then one side being purple and one side being teal. It looked like actual explosions that were coming across. That was a really cool thing to see in person.
Okay. So if I'm being honest, my top announcement is kind of a hard choice between an Okami sequel, Naughty Dog's new game, Intergalactic, Split Fiction, and the new game from Team Ico. But I think what might just squeeze a little bit above the rest of those is The Outer Worlds 2 for me. I loved the first game. It was in my top 10 games of 2020. It is the perfect marriage of Fallout, Mass Effect, and Borderlands, and the whole game is basically comedic social commentary on capitalism. I loved everything about it. It
I
was...
love how the developer makes fun of themselves in their own trailer,
Yep.
So I will say, I think that was that trailer was the one thing I think genuinely upset Daniel the entire time. And not because it was Outer Wilds 2. It's because the trailer starts with, from the makers of Knights of the Old Republic. And he went, yes! And then it said 2, and he goes, no!
Yeah. Yep. But Obsidian, highly underrated developer. They made, arguably, the best Fallout game, New Vegas.
Not even arguably. It is the best Fallout game. Oh, God. New Vegas.
I love how they went like, and Fallout 3, 2.
Yeah.
Then they had to remind everybody that was New Vegas.
And didn't they do the original work on South Park Stick of Truth before the developer changed?
They may have. I don't know. I mean, when I think of Obsidian, the first thing that comes to mind is New Vegas. Like, I honestly did not know that they had made Knights of the Old Republic 2 and a couple of the other IPs that they talked about. I knew they made Outer Worlds, but I wasn't expecting a sequel for it. I haven't played it. I've heard a lot of incredible things. It is one of the 8,000 games I have on my backlog. But I'm excited to see how it comes out and all of that.
Yeah, so if you love that kind of like revolutionary, like, comedic takes on capitalism and stuff, then The Outer Worlds is definitely for you. If you like, it's the gameplay of Fallout. It's got a lot of like, Bethesda stuff in it where you can like steal from people, but if you and stuff like that, mechanics. But then it's also got your collecting a crew of people on a ship and gathering them together to help you do the thing, and you can build relationships with them and stuff, and they approve and disapprove of your actions. So there's the Mass Effect 2 part there, Mass Effect part, and then the Borderlands part is in like some of the overtop comedy. It's just a very like tongue-in-cheek, self-aware game. So
speaking of which, how did y'all feel about the trailer from Borderlands 4?
yes, I was gonna ask that too.
What I think happened with that was I think they were expecting the Borderlands movie to be a huge success, and then they were going to ride the coat waves of success into announcing Borderlands 4, and then show this trailer. And I'm like, okay, the movie flopped harder than almost any movie in history, and I think now they're just trying to distance from it and go like, remember the games are good. So,
yeah, well, they are.
Yeah, the trailer looked really good.
Ryan is excited for it. He said he really liked how the trailer opened with like the cyborg psycho war.
I will say this. There is someone that I very, very personally know who's a tester for Gearbox, and I want to try to be as vague about this person as well, because they've signed an NDA and all of that fun stuff.
Right.
From what has been shared with me from doing testing for better part of 2024, this is as I was shared this is fucking it. This is what everybody wanted Borderlands 3 to be. That just kind of missed the mark on it. They're like, obviously it's new characters and everything else. They're like, but this is, and he was like, and obviously, there's a little bit of bias because I work for this company, but this is the Borderlands game, in my personal opinion. That's coming from somebody who's been playing, bugged out pre-alpha and had been playing it for hours every single day, 5 days a week. This game is going to be incredible. And I even reached out to this person after the Game Awards to be like, listen, like I don't want to rain on anyone's parade or anything like that, but next year's looking really stacked for games, like really, really stacked. You've got the obviouses of things like GTA that you're going to be going up against, but you've got things like Mafia. You've got things like a new Elden Ring game. You've got so many different things that you're going to be going up against. Like, how do you personally feel? And he goes, even with knowing all of those things, he goes, the big hurdle for any game is going to be GTA 6. There's no question about that. And he goes, outside of that, he goes, I really don't think any game holds a candle, in my personal opinion, to what this game is going to be when it comes out. So I like the Borderlands series, but just from talking with this person, I'm very excited to see this game.
Yeah, I played through the entirety of Borderlands 3 on stream with Ryan and Dylan. Dalton joined us a couple of times, but it was mostly Ryan and Dylan. And there are actually several highlight videos on my YouTube channel of our playthroughs of that game that are just boiled down to, it was mostly the three of us, but then every once in a while someone else would jump on, like Matt or Dalton or whatever, and they'd play too. Yeah, but we went through the whole game and we enjoyed it. I played Tales of the Borderlands. Ryan didn't, so I had to explain to him who Reese was and why Borderlands 3 starts the way it does. Because it is canonical. It does pick up where that game left off. And I was also pissed that Reese wasn't Troy Baker again. But overall, we had fun, and I told him, like, yeah, Borderlands 4 looks solid, man. Like, I'd play through the whole thing with you again, because I can't play those games by myself. They're too hard. You got to play them with someone else. They're designed that way, So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Maybe not top of my list, but definitely looking forward to it.
It'll be something I definitely pick up when it comes out. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's in my top 10 things I'm most looking forward to playing, but it's not in my top 5. it looks really good. It looks like I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it, and I'm just I'm excited to either tell the person I know that they were 100% right or that they doomed me out of $70.
Do you all remember the all of
Mm.
the nominees for the best or for the most anticipated category, and if so, what was your personal pick?
My
Nick's
personal
would have been
pick
GTA
was,
6.
yeah, my pick was GTA 6. I don't remember
Mine was Death
who.
Stranding 2.
And I don't get me wrong, I am excited to play Death Stranding 2 as well. I guess for me voting on that one, I wasn't voting on what I personally feel like is my most anticipated game, but what I think kind of the mass populace is going to be choosing. I'm trying to remember what was on there.
Well, on there, I've got it pulled up here. There was Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, or Yotei, however you say that.
Yep.
Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Monster Hunter Wilds.
That's right.
Out of those, mine was Grand Theft Auto 6, if you're talking about just those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
so it would have been all three of you.
For a personal, it's Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah, my personal also goes to Yotei all the way.
Okay. Yeah. My personal is definitely Death Stranding 2, but then followed by Ghost of Yotei. I know if I was to ask Ryan, he would probably say it's between Monster Hunter Wilds and Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
That's those.
So
he's
let me
big on those.
Let me ask you guys something. So with Grand Theft Auto 6 being so highly anticipated, it seems to me, and actually my co-host Connor was actually saying the same thing. There's only two ways this is going to go. It's either going to blow everyone away with, exceeding expectations, or because expectations are so high, it's going to fail. What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be the latter. I think, truthfully, it's going to be, it's already a worldwide phenomenon. Literally a fun factoid for you is because my career is in staffing and recruiting, and so I pay attention to a lot of the market of different businesses and their projections and hiring and firing and growth and all of that stuff. There is a duly noted across all industries a concern for the announcement of the release date for GTA 6 because they believe that there will be a massive dip in productivity around the world from that release date up to 5 days after that, which will greatly affect the economy of so many different countries. That's how powerful this game anticipation is, and I don't think that there is really a way to satiate everyone's most ridiculous desires and wishes for this game to be flawless, because candidly, there has not really, in my personal opinion, there's never been a flawless Rockstar game. Yes, Red Dead 2 has one of the best stories ever, but gameplay and mechanics are a little bit more to be desired. Same with GTA 5 as well. And so when something is put on the most impossible pedestal, I can't see them delivering on what everyone's hopes and dreams are.
That's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the Kingdom Hearts 3 problem. Our expectations were so high after all that time that what we got was mediocre.
Yeah. I think that the story that they have for GTA 6 is going to be incredible. It's based in Florida, essentially. There's no way that's not going to be awesome. There's no way that the story is not going to be great.
It's back to Vice City, which is essentially Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that the story is not going to be an incredible story. But I think when you have something this hyped and put this high on a pedestal, there's no way, not even to exceed that, just meet the expectation. So I feel like it's going to crush every number, and it's going to blow sales out of proportion and everything else. But I don't think I don't think this is going to have the same lasting gravitas that GTA 5 had in continuously growing it, because I just don't see that happening, and I feel like it's going to fall just flat enough that it's not going to be what everybody was really hoping for.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. I have gone into some things with really high expectations before, only to come out and be like, it wasn't quite what I thought it would be. But
I'll never forget No
Well,
Man's
we all
Sky.
have.
oh god, yeah, No Man's Sky is good now, but in the beginning, Jesus.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Well, now it's what they promised it would be. You know.
Yeah. What? 6-7 years later.
But hey, yeah, they can redeem themselves. So the last thing I want to do before, real quick, is I just want to quickly go down the list of each winner here, and then you can stop me on anyone that you want to talk about, and then we'll go into closing thoughts and wrap up. So, the best fighting game was Tekken 8, which I've heard a lot of good things about, but haven't played it myself. I'm not big on the traditional fighting games. I prefer cross brawlers like Smash Bros. Is more my cup of tea. But Scott has raved about it on What Culture, so I know that it's definitely got an audience out there. Best VR game was Batman Arkham Shadow, which I want to play, but I don't have the MetaQuest 3. I only have the 2. So, but it looks so good, I'm like, it's a good Arkham game after the disappointment that was Suicide Squad, so it's kind of what we need.
Suicide Squad is going to be free, or not free, but it's going to be where you can play it offline now.
Oh boy. The Games for Impact Award. I wasn't expecting this to win, but Neva, which I have played some of, and if you've played Gree or Gris, or however you want to pronounce it, it's the same developers and a very similar art style and kind of concept of being a side-scrolling platformer with some light combat mechanics and mostly just like a silent narrative that is a metaphor for different things. Gree was a metaphor for depression, where you go through like the stages of depression in that game represented by different colors. So it's Neva, I haven't quite figured out what the message is in it yet, but there's a cute little wolf that follows you around. So I was really expecting that award to go to Life is Strange, though, for whatever reason. But best family game, Astrobot, I can agree. Although Ryan kind of pointed out, he's like, it's weird that a single-player game wins best family game. You'd think it'd be something they could all play together, but then we were like, well, Mario Party was the only multiplayer game on that category, so unfortunately.
I was really sad that Senua's Saga didn't win Games for Impact.
Yeah. Well, my thing about Hellblade 2, which I love the first game, it was my game of the year 2017, came, it actually beat out Resident Evil 7 for me. The second game, I enjoy it. I really do. But it's more of the same. It's not really doing anything new or innovative with what it's done before, and it makes it almost feel like a one-trick pony. It's using all the exact same bag of tricks as the first game did. And just the only difference is that this game is expanding the lore by adding more companions and a bigger world. And in a way, though, I almost feel like that's kind of to its detriment because it takes away some of the ambiguity from the first game of it all being in her head. With all these other people being around and confirming the reality of it, it's no longer ambiguous. Some of it is, though. Some of it's still in her head, but some of it's really happening, and it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two throughout the game, which I know is the point, but it won best audio design too, and I'm sure that's because they were doing the same like voices in her head mechanic. If you wear headphones, the voices are coming from all around and make you actually kind of go crazy when you hear them.
Yeah, Connor was telling me that the first time he played the first game, it was on just regular console. He didn't have it on the headset, and then when he played it on the headset, he was like, "Oh my god, it's like a whole different experience."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that is really well done. I was kind of hoping Best Audio would go to Silent Hill 2, though, because the audio plays a lot in that game to what makes it so scary when I'm playing it. Like, when enemies are nearby, radio static plays through the speaker on the PS5 controller, and when you're playing that game in the dark at like 2 in the morning, it makes a difference, you know? It really sells it. So I was surprised. I was also surprised to see Melina Jurgens get Best Performance. I 100% thought that was going to Brianna White for Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like, I thought that was a shoe-in for her. But again, Melina does...
that was a good one. Didn't she win when she won, or didn't she win for Senua for the first game too?
Yep, in 2017, which I definitely thought was fully deserved then, and it's deserved now too, but it was deserved even more then because I think the story behind how she became Senua was that she was actually an intern at Ninja Theory that they got to do like placeholder acting, but she channeled her real life mental health pain into the performance, and it was so good that they made her Senua.
Yeah.
So it's real pain.
She didn't necessarily like that though, right to begin with, because she was so nervous, when she acts in real life, and then that happened.
It was real life pain channeled into that performance in that first game, though, and of course that shines through in this one too. So it's definitely a deserved award. I just there's a part of me that that thinks that maybe I kind of wish that some of those awards would have went to other people, but it's still deserved. Like, I won't contest that she deserves it for sure.
No, she definitely does.
The accessibility award went to Prince of Persia, which I agree with because that's a Metroidvania game that has a lot of accessibility. There are, like, you can place map markers and stuff to kind of, like, teleport back to, and it's easier than your typical Metroidvania. Not hand-holdy, but a lot more, like, accessible to people who normally aren't good at them, So I can see that. Best action game was Black Myth Wukong. I saw that coming a mile away. It was either going to be that or Stellar Blade, 100%. Best multiplayer game was Helldivers 2. Saw that coming a mile away as well. Like, there was no way that wasn't going to win after the reception it got earlier this year. Community support, Baldur's Gate 3. Art style, Metaphor, Free Fantasio.
So let me ask you about community support. So another thing Connor and I were talking about on our show was what community support for me means that the game's been around for quite a long time. Do you think Helldivers should deserve a community support when it's launched less than a year ago? Because it's not continuing support.
It's a misleading category, but I think what that category actually means is that it goes to the developer that has shown the best support to their community. It's not the game that the community supports the most, it's the other way around. It's the developer that listens It's the developer that listens to community feedback and puts out updates to address concerns and adds content and stuff like that in an ongoing. Usually it goes to like live service games and MMOs, but Baldur's Gate 3 has been a game of constant updates. No Man's Sky, I think, was up for this in the past too, for the same reason.
So, I know Cyberpunk won last year because of the 2.0 update plus Phantom Liberty as well.
So that's what that award is for. It's for the developer that actually listens to their fans and gives them what they want with the update patches for the most part, and is transparent with the community about what's going on. That's what I think it's for. So yeah, I would say Helldivers belongs in there because of the amount of work that they've put into it since it's been out. And that is a live service game too, where, you know, like while you're sleeping at night not playing it, other players around the world are defending those worlds from the bugs. You can wake up the next morning and one of those planets is gone because it's all happening in real time. So
right.
Yeah, I could see it. I think, best art style going to Metaphor, Ray, and Fantasio. I'm 100% on that. I love the stylistic art style of the Persona games. They're very, like, edgy and in your face with it, and it's stylistic is the only right way to describe it. I love it so much, and I love how, you know, some of the cutscenes are hand-drawn animation, but then the actual gameplay is this almost like, I would almost call it like cel-shaded sketchbook drawings. that really pop out with like the outlines and stuff on the characters. So yeah, that 100% deserved that award in my opinion. Best game direction for Astrobot. Yep, I could see that. The debut indie and regular indie award both went to Balatro. Action adventure game for Astrobot. More sweeps. RPG for Metaphor and Free Fantasio, which, yeah, I agree, but I was almost half expecting that to go to Dragon's Dogma 2, if I'm being honest. I've heard a lot of good things about that game this year, too.
So I've played both. Like, I'm currently playing through Metaphor right now. Dragon's Dogma 2, it is an RPG, but it felt like it was really scaled back on a lot of like the elements of customization that you would really look for and anticipate out of like a fantasy-based RPG game. It felt like a lot of the mechanics that you would like try to level up really didn't make any big differences. I enjoyed Dragon's Dogma 2. I didn't like super love it. Like it's in that kind of like 6 to 7 out of 10 range for me. I personally speaking, I think they hit it right on the nose with giving it over to Metaphor.
Yeah. Yep, it is deserving. Metaphor, it also won Best Narrative, I believe, which I also can wholeheartedly agree with because Metaphor's name is pretty on the nose when you consider what when you dig deep into what the narrative is about. Quite frankly, I'm surprised the usual bad faith people on the internet haven't called the game woke yet, and I think the only reason they haven't is because the story is so well handled that the metaphor goes right over their heads. Quite frankly, is what it is.
Also a male protagonist, so they can't complain about that aspect.
It's not spoon-fed enough, but that game couldn't have come out at a more timely, time around the most recent election, considering the way that the narrative goes and the literal metaphors in it for like classism, racism, stuff like that. It's all handled in a different way in a fantasy setting, but and the other thing I like is that the book that you're carrying around seems to be about our world. And some of the monsters that you fight are actually called humans, and they're like these Lovecraftian body horror monstrosities of what a human used to look like. And I almost wonder if this isn't some kind of like far post-apocalyptic future where animals have anthropomorphized or whatever, and what used to be humans are now these monsters. And the book that he's carrying around is about the old world, or if it is just like another fantasy dimension or something. I feel like there's going to be some kind of rug pull or twist near the end of the game that's going to have to do with that fucking book, quite frankly. I just
gotta tell you, if you like Lovecraftian kind of things, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
If you love Lovecraftian kind of things, I know H.P. Lovecraft was kind of a sack of shit, but
yeah.
If you actually love the kind of lore and stuff that he puts in, you definitely check out this new game that came out. I want to say it came out earlier this year called Still Wakes the Deep.
Yep, played it,
and I was really surprised that did not get an indie nomination. That game was freaking phenomenal.
Yep, played it, loved it. I recorded a whole Let's Play of it. It was my final face cam Let's Play because my laptop's kicking the bucket. And it is, I haven't put all the episodes out of it yet. I've got like 3 more to put out. But I loved it. It's in my my nominations for in my nominee video for my top 10 this year. So yeah, it's really fun. But yeah, so Still Wakes the Deep, I recommend it too for any horror game fan, and it has a lot in common with Soma. Actually, when I was playing it, I was getting Soma vibes quite a bit. The rest of these real quick. The best strategy game was Frostpunk 2, sports game FC Soccer 25. Sorry, Nick, he wanted it to be the wrestling game. Best ongoing. What's that?
Oh, I was gonna say. I don't know. Maybe it's just me or I'm losing my mind or anything. I thought it was really strange that College Football 25 didn't make the cut for a nominee this year out of everything that they have listed.
Yeah, I have no dog in that fight because I don't really care about sports games. But
and I will say very adamantly the quietest the crowd was the entire night was during the best sports category. It really was. It really was. I'm not a big sports person or like sports game person. Traditionally speaking, I've never played a 2K basketball game. I've never been interested. I hate Madden, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I will say I did enjoy NCAA when I was in middle school, high school, freshman, sophomore year of college. And for a game to be gone because of legal reasons with the NCAA for a decade, to come back and to be the most popular game, at least in the United States, for sports this year, it was odd to not see it be in the nomination category. I know that they look at things on a worldwide scale, but I thought that was odd.
Yeah. Soccer games always win this category for some reason. It's almost inevitable. Like, I predicted it. I'm like, they always win. They never don't. Every time there's a FIFA game, it always wins. So,
Yeah.
And this wasn't even a FIFA game, but still, yeah. Ongoing game, Helldivers 2, best adaptation, Fallout. Wholeheartedly agree with this. It could not have been anything but this or Arcane. Everything else on that list is at least mildly disappointing in some kind of, especially Knuckles. I hated how they handled that show. So
people were laughing and booing when they mentioned Yakuza, which I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't that booing part. I was so mad because I love the Yakuza franchise, and for for them to make whatever Amazon did, it was just such a travesty.
Yeah, I've heard that from
Right.
I've heard from people who love the games that show is an insult. So
Yeah.
Lara Croft has gotten mixed reviews, but Knuckles was also an insult. Those Sonic movies are so good, but that show, it starts good, and then halfway through it becomes the Wade Whipple show, and it gets so fucking stupid and slapsticky and just childish. And there's like a whole part where Knuckles has a fever dream, and there's puppets involved, and it's just really dumb.
Well, it sounds like the movies are more aimed at nostalgic audiences like us, but the TV show was trying to be more aimed at kids, and it's really just it can't be both. You know?
No, you can't. Very much. I still need to go see the third movie, but I really, I'm
Well,
excited.
it comes out, I think, next week we finally get to see him piss on the moon?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was out already, but it's okay. Yeah.
I think it's
It doesn't come out until Friday. It's like 5 days before Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to the theaters for it. And
it's the movie that brought Jim Carrey out of retirement. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and if I could be so bold, I would say he's the main reason that these movies are so good. I would argue Jim carried the first movie.
Yeah. Did you hear officially why he came back for the third one?
Why?
Well, yeah, he said that he bought a bunch of stuff and needed money or whatever.
Oh.
He goes, well, I bought a bunch of stuff lately and I need money. And I'm like, what an honest answer, man. I appreciate that.
I think he was
love it.
joking with that, honestly. But I think he just loves the Sonic movie because remember he said there'd have to be like a golden script or something that he just has to do, and I think he just loves playing this character. Honestly, they let him be old school Jim Carrey.
Yes, yeah, and it's great. On the note of Fallout, though, one of the best adaptations I've ever seen, quite frankly. Ella Purnell and Walton Goggins have great chemistry, and maybe it's the over-the-top violence in the addition of Walton Goggins, but this show kind of feels like a Tarantino movie, if I'm being honest. Just the way that it's like directed and paced and all that. Ella Purnell, she kind of came out of nowhere. She was great in Yellow Jackets, and now she's in everything, and I love her. She's adorable. And that okie dokie gets stuck in your head, you know. I love how they handle the lore of the series, where this show is canonical to the overall series lore without stepping on its toes. You know, it's like it stands on its own, but it takes place in the game's continuity. And I love how they did that one scene where you see all of those heads around the table, and they're talking about you see all those heads around the table, and they're talking about all the vaults that they're going to open up and the experiments they're going to have in them. And throughout the games, you can actually find these vaults, and you go in them and you find notes about those very experiments they talk about. And it's just a really nice tie-in, and you see the aftermath of each of these things they talked about doing in these vaults throughout the different games that you can explore. And so I like how they handled that. The whole thing was just very well done. It was like a solid 9 out of 10 show for me. So,
Yeah.
Best music was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Definitely deserved. Final Fantasy games always have the best music. You know, I could have seen Astrobot or Metaphor would have been my other choices for soundtrack, though.
I mean, I personally voted for Astrobot just because of how infectious everything is, and plus, I forget there's a couple different missions where you're like underground with a bunch of mushrooms. Whatever that song is for those levels, I absolutely love. My wife and I will hum that song to each other all the time. As well as the sound for the challenge levels or the Grandmaster level, I think is just wildly infectious.
Yep.
But I will say there was a part of me that desperately really wanted Metaphor to win solely because of the battle song and
it's a meme.
Rap. That gibberish rap is so good. It is so good.
Right. No, it's now everyone, because of that song, they're talking about how they're like, in my next D&D campaign, I'm making a rapping monk character, you know? And it's perfect. Yeah, and I love it too. The director said it's supposed to sound like Buddhist chanting, apparently.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, but it's just like really fat. Yeah, it was like it's like insane. Yeah, I saw that too, but it's hard to deny that Final Fantasy music is very iconic, and Nobu Uematsu is an absolute genius who came back to do the soundtrack for the 7 remake trilogy. Came out of retirement to work on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I appreciate I like all of their soundtracks, but that one, or 7's music, is iconic, and they do a really good job recreating it. If you had to pick like one thing from that game that is absolutely flawless, it's definitely the music out of everything else.
Well, and what I will say about the composer as well that I did think was really cool is there was a side area of the venue itself that a lot of the people that either spoke or were like, you know, special privilege for the event itself were coming out of, and the composer was actually just standing out there in the crowd doing a bunch of autographs for people on their PS5 copies of Rebirth.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was so like, and you don't see that very often. I thought it was just absolutely incredible. During that time, Danielle and I actually had a chance to meet and take a photo with and talk for a bit with Phil Spencer of Xbox, which was so cool. He was also with it, and I cannot remember his name. I think it's Nava, the CEO of Microsoft, was with him as well. So we got to, that was really cool. It also brought one of the funniest moments for me is we did see Troy Baker coming out. And when I say that man moved with the quickness to get as far away from that crowd as quickly as possible, it looked like he was like speed walking almost into a run to try to get away from crowd.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of video game voice actors have celebrity status now, so I can see that.
Wait, say again?
A lot of video game voice actors have celebrity status now, so I can see that, you know, trying to avoid the paparazzi and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just, I thought I'd share that because the fact that the composer was out there just hanging out with a couple of his friends and took photos with anybody that wanted to take a photo with him, sign whatever you brought to him. You don't see that very often, and it was, I don't know, it was just a really cool experience.
Speaking of paparazzi, in my closing thoughts here, I just want to shout out real quick that GameSpot had a really cool pre-show thing that they were doing before the official Game Awards pre-show on their stream for like the first, I want to say 2.5 hours before the actual show started. They were doing a like almost like red carpet event, you could call it, outside of the theater. And they were like doing like trivia games, and people were winning like these giant ass subs, like party subs they were carrying around. And they were doing interviews on stage with different game developers and stuff, and it was really cool to watch. You know, I thought you said you walked past that, right?
Yeah. So, and that's actually my personal favorite moment of this entire thing is when we got there. There was a bunch of people just kind of walking in everywhere. We weren't really quite sure where to go to get in line. And as we were walking around, we both actually walked through an area that was completely blocked off, not for general public, and walked right through what was a crowd of people, which I did not realize that crowd of people was the affiliates of Hideo Kojima, including Hideo Kojima himself. I bumped into one of his associates. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and they just kind of looked a little like, I don't want to say annoyed, but like, "What are you doing over here, dude?"
They gave you that Japanese disapproving stare.
Really, honestly, yes, 1,000%.
God, that is so horrifying.
Yeah.
As soon as I got that, I like just did a quick scan of everyone that was there, and because they were all speaking in Japanese. I was like, I don't know anyone. Holy shit, that's Hideo. When
you bumped into Hideo Kojima and you had the nerve to walk in his and walk in his eyesight.
Accident. I didn't mean to at all whatsoever. But I've met a number of different, public figures or celebrities, whether it be by luck, by knowing someone. My wife used to worked as a handler for Comic-Cons for several years.
You also live in California, and celebrities are all over the place out there.
I also live in California. That same Game Awards night, they didn't go to it or anything, but Daniel and I went and grabbed a drink at the bar inside of our hotel, and one of a couple that we were talking to, the woman that was there, she was a director. She was a director for the developers of League of Legends and worked on Arcane Season 1. And I'm like, hey,
oh, wow.
What the hell is happening? The Hideo Kojima, he and I made eye contact, and I could feel my face turn not pink, not red, full-fledged fucking magenta. I've never metaphorically shit my pants in front of someone that hard ever in my life. And I had to snap myself into it, and I could tell he just kind of chuckled to himself, and I just I was standing around his team, and I'm like, I can't ask for anything, and I don't know if he would understand if I did ask him for something, so I'm just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, to share, to be within feet of him and to make eye contact. Call me the biggest fanboy on the planet. I don't care. That was my favorite moment of the entire Game Awards. I joke saying I wish it would happen. I didn't think it would actually happen, and it was really cool.
He said,
"I was really hoping to get more information on OD for that." But
since Kojima was there, I was hoping for a little something. I don't need to see any more of Death Stranding 2. I'm already sold, but show me more OD.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what OT and Jordan Peele have to do for their gaming / viewing extravaganza that they've got going on.
Yep. He's like, I breathe the same air as Kojima. I'm never washing these lungs again.
Nope. I'm still holding my breath on Thursday.
Wait, you breathe the same air as Hideo Kojima and Harrison Ford and Snoop Dogg, so.
And okay,
well, breathing the same air as Snoop Dogg has side effects. I'm sure.
I will say one of the funniest things is during the Snoop performance, he was phenomenal. I wasn't expecting him to play a brand new song and also playing an old school song as well.
That part looked like an actual concert. Everyone on their feet and shit, dancing. Yeah, it looked really fun.
So everyone was on their feet, and everyone in the first 5 rows were dancing. Everyone else in the crowd, completely motionless, not moving, not singing along, gin and juice, nothing. And I'm like, this is the saddest, cool concert I've ever been to in my entire life.
And
it's we didn't get to. We're hanging out in the reject center.
Yeah.
I was kind of joking with my wife. I was like, wait, why is Joseph Sparrow swearing, but Snoop Dogg is singing a censored version of Gin and Juice,
Yeah.
I was like, when did you become the wholesome one?
Yes. That part though, that part in particular really made the whole thing feel like a party slash celebration, and that's what the Game Awards has always been to me. It's not some corporate award show; it's a celebration of video games as art, and a look back at the best the year had to offer. It's a chance for all of these usually segregated brands to come together in unity and celebrate gaming as a whole. And I think no part the entire night stands out more than that besides Snoop Dogg's performance and when that guy came up, that Amir guy who is creating jobs for people who lost their jobs in the industry, and he got all choked up and teary-eyed and choked me up a little too. Like that, those two moments, they're two sides of the same coin in my opinion.
It was weird because I was seeing some of the comments on that and people were calling him cringe. I was like, he's literally saving people's lives.
Yeah. Oh, never read the live comments. Never read the live chat.
I mean,
I tried taking it off, but Twitch wouldn't let me.
Being in that room, I mean, it literally, myself included, it felt like there was not a single dry eye in the house, like listening to his acceptance speech. And I turned over to Daniel after his speech was done, and I'm like, I've done staffing and recruiting and rebuilding people's resumes for years, and I've gotten pretty good at it now. I want to see what I can do to help out this man. Like this is so incredible. I don't care if it's free pro bono work. Like he's doing it for a right cause, and you can feel it in that room. You could absolutely feel like the two most emotional moments was that and the developer for Larian Studios, his speech.
Oh my god,
so good.
That was, I had chills. And you want to talk about an absolute uproar from the crowd, from down on the floor all the way up to above us, as soon as he said that these developers and these people that love these games, they're not numbers.
Yep.
You're talking about like a full-fledged moment that we all shared together of this is not about consumerism, this is about us.
When he said that you should play or you should make the game you want to play, I was just like, wow.
I have a lot of respect for developers that put artistic integrity before the almighty dollar. Take risks, even if it fails, even if it flops. At least I respect that you had the spine to take a risk instead of playing it safe and doing the same cash grab live service crap over and over again.
Well, that's why I used to really respect Rockstar, because think about it. Like, Bully took balls to say, we're gonna put this out. It's like Manhunt took balls.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto took balls, and now they're just kind of sitting there going like, well, let's keep updating this live service. It's like, how about no?
That being said, though, the winner of Game of the Year is probably the safest pick they could have gone with overall, because every other game on that list is flawed in some kind of way. Astrobot was the only flawless game nominated. Like, completely flawless.
And I haven't played Black Myth Wukong, but I do want to because it looks awesome.
Now that did win the player's choice vote overall, which I can respect.
Yeah.
I don't like Souls-likes, but I can respect it.
And that's the thing. It's like it is a Souls-like. When he says it's not a Souls-like, I understand where he's coming from someone who really enjoys Souls-like and Soulsborne games. Because I honestly the only category that I was a bit upset about was the best indie game, because I really would have loved to see Another Crab's Treasure be nominated for that. Because it was such a good game and it was so funny, and the amount of detail that went into that game. You're walking on trash. You collect microplastics as a form of currency and to upgrade your skills, and you look at every single thing of trash is like a normal brand that we would recognize, but a pun of it in some form of, sea or fish way. And it was so well done. I really wish that they had gotten nominated.
I wanted to see the plucky Squire win something in the indie categories. It is very well done. a very unique take on the original Zelda formula, where you're like in a storybook, but then you can jump out into the real world on the desk of the person who's writing the book that you're in, and
Yeah.
you actually have to use that to solve puzzles and stuff. Sometimes it's really well done. Um, yeah, that would have been a choice for me that I would have liked to see
Yeah.
in the indie category. Personally, well, no, it was in the category, but I would have liked to see it win like best debut indie. I think, but I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. I'm not surprised with the overall results, or disappointed or upset. Honestly, I don't think anything won this year that wasn't deserving in some kind of way. Some things I would have picked over others, but I think none of them are controversial wins as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And like I know there's a lot of, boo ha ha about, Black Myth Wukong not getting its flowers for Game of the Year. It just from playing it didn't feel like a Game of the Year game. It was done well. I did enjoy it. But it also felt it to me it felt like the combat, although very polished, felt very limited. Like you do get a few things, but not to change your fighting style, but not enough to where like this feels like a fully fleshed out game. And I know it's staying true to Sun Wukong, with his staff and fighting style, but to have at least like, you look at a game like, Ghost of Tsushima, where you have several different stances and different fighting styles with each stance, and equally the same with something like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. You've got different elements, even though you're using only one same weapon the entire time. I would have loved to have seen that from Black Myth Wukong. I thought it was a really good game. I think it was very deserving of like an 8 out of 10 score, but I think it is in that same conversation as something like a Metaphor ReFantasio or an Astrobot. For me, I was surprised that it was in that category.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Although it did win Game of the Year at the Golden Joysticks, which is the British Game Awards.
Yeah.
It did win over there. So, let's see. Closing thoughts on the Game Awards overall here.
I agree with an article that I read from Kotaku saying that while the Game Awards haven't been perfect over the last 10 years, they've never been perfect, but this was probably the best show that they've had in a long time.
I agree. They really brought out all the stops
And-
for their 10th anniversary.
And the fact that we talked about earlier, like this was kind of a lackluster year when it came to games, and the Game Awards was able to pull off that kind of a show. That really speaks, really speaks to not just Jeff, but anybody that really puts their heart and soul into making sure that show happens.
Yeah, I would say a mixture of deserved games winning the awards, self-deprecation humor through the Muppets, poking fun at the wrap it up shit and all the other internet complaints from last year. So acknowledgement of mistakes and taking it on the chin and kind of rolling with it. Acknowledgement of the industry's downfalls and pushback against that in the show. So kind of like some mild activism there, you could argue. And then announcements that people genuinely did not see coming, that were like actually major surprises. And a lot of old franchises making a comeback, not through remakes or remasters, but new entries. So yeah, solid show overall. Like I give the whole show, a 9 out of 10 this year.
Yeah, and like Jeff even saying, we can argue about, who's to blame for all these layoffs and everything. The fact is they work in the industry, and it's hard to, on a show like this to address it and do it in a constructive way. And I really respect how they were able to do that, and especially give that guy the award that he very much deserved for trying to push back against that. And then, with Larian Studios, what was his name? Sven Vinky, I think his name was. I love that you have actually industry insiders saying, okay, this shit's not okay, and they were able to do it on a live audience, in a live studio, or live right in front of everybody, so to speak,
Yeah, and that's I think that developers' goodwill with everybody and even, saying stuff like that, that's why they're a developer, that can get away with making a game like Baldur's Gate 3 that can have all of the stuff in it that the anti-woke crowd normally bitches about, and have it not be controversial, because I guess they give them a pass on it because of, speeches like that. Which is to say, you shouldn't need an excuse to give a pass on that in the first place, but it is a testament to their quality as a developer overall, that even the grifters and the bigots can actually enjoy their work too.
Yeah, definitely.
Closing thoughts from those of you out there on the shoreline.
Yeah. I've watched Game Awards every year since it first started, and getting to celebrate watching The Witcher 3 win the very first game of the year. To get to see 10 years now and get to see it in person. I mean, this is like a literal, like, my kid self's dream come true, to be in a room with so many people that are influential to something I've been passionate about since, I can literally remember. The performances that were live were incredible. The surprises from, having the legend himself, Harrison Ford, come out on stage. A huge emphasis on the humanistic movement of understanding that there are real humans that are a part of this industry, and how important it is to, to have that be the forefront of what they're thinking of. Between the Game Changer Award and between Swen from Larian's speech was incredible. The trailers were great. It was so surprising to see things like Onimusha or Okami 2 or The Witcher 4, or even an Elden Ring, spin-off game. It was, for me, I've got to say, it was a 9.5 out of 10 experience for me. If I got to hug Hideo, it would have been a 10 out of 10 experience, but I was too nervous.
Yeah, for me, this was just an incredible experience from start to finish. I think the show that they put on at the Video Game Awards, it was appropriate for the 10-year anniversary. I think, anytime you have the Muppets roasting you, you've made it. And it was great to see them, go from being, sort of a passion project to, like, this is now something that is a staple of entertainment.
Yeah, it's the video game Oscars now. It's come so far.
Yeah,
It really is. Okay. All right.
A long way from his time on Spike TV.
Yeah, and you know what? We don't even talk about that anymore, because they don't even consider that, considering they called this the 10th anniversary, which means, according to them, this started in 2014 when Dragon Age Inquisition won Game of the Year.
Well, yeah, isn't that the Video Game Awards? Now it's just called the Game Awards.
That was the first episode of what is now known as the Game Awards, the first time. That was after Spike TV dropped them and Jeff Keighley picked it back up out of pocket, and transitioned it into the Game Awards, and then that was 10 years ago now. Yeah, the Spike TV VGAs came before that. And I do remember them, though, because I remember Telltale's The Walking Dead won Game of the Year on that show one year. So, which I was happy to see. But, all right. So, that has been our... did you have anything else? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't have anything else. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was good.
Because they were already about an hour and a half past when I told my wife we'd be done.
Yeah. That's the conversation got way more in depth than I thought it would, but that's fine.
Hey, that's what this show is good. That's the sign of a good show. When nobody can stop talking because it was so interesting.
Yes. But that has been it for our extra special, extended, full of special guests post-Game Award discussion episode. Extravaganza. This should have been the season finale instead of next week's episode. But anyways, If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to smash that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about the Game Awards overall, your favorite announcements and what you thought of the winners and stuff like that. And if you're on Spotify, you can leave comments on Spotify now, so go ahead and leave one down there. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and so on and so forth. You can also find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Oversoul53, and of course on YouTube as Oversoul Gaming. Get in on that contest. I don't have many entries yet. I'm hoping for a better turnout. And would you guys like to plug your socials, Adam?
Yeah, you can always find me on Facebook, which is Gamers Got a Game -G3. You can also find me on, right now it is still got the goes nowhere, does nothing page to it, but it will be switching over. We have actually decided, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to call our show Garbage In, Garbage Out. Kind of a fun, fun little saying there. So we'll be doing that, and then you can also find me on Instagram, which is at That Cyclops Guy. I'm always posting things on there. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever Elon Musk wants to call it now, which is also at That Cyclops Guy. And you can also find me on a gaming page there with gamers_G3. My Discord is that_Cyclops_Guy. And I am on TikTok, but I don't know if TikTok's going to be around after next month. So I don't know if we should. I don't know if we should plug that or not.
Fair enough. And by the way, Nick can be found on Twitter and TikTok at the Gaming Fiend 1, I believe it is. It's either the Gaming Fiend or the Gaming Fiend 1. Used to be the Vaping Fiend, but he changed it. All right, and then you two over there.
I mean, yeah, I don't do a whole lot on social media outside of LinkedIn for work. So I guess if you want to find Michael Brook on LinkedIn, by all means, go for that. Otherwise, my IG and my TikTok handles are both the same, being Brooksy, my boy, boy being BOI.
Boy.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Daniel Lane Official. That's like Daniel in the Lion's Den, Memory Lane, and then official because I'm legit. My TikTok, yeah, thank you. My TikTok is the Nerdy Mystic with a K. That's also me on YouTube. I need to post more on YouTube, but you can find me on TikTok and Instagram somewhat consistently.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining the show. I'm sorry that the co-host couldn't stay for the whole thing, but he does work pretty early. We usually are done by like 11:30, so it's a bit different for him. But thank you so much for joining me. He'll be listening to the rest of this on his own time later, so he'll hear everything he missed. And for everyone in the audience out there, have a happy holidays, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Bye.